Chapter 89, Level 8 Origin Opening Realm, 4. Chapter 89, Level 8 Origin Opening Realm, 4. And martial techniques. Forget about martial techniques. If it doesn't work, I'll cultivate the blood saber. Even though it's very trashy, it's enough for the current me. Su Yu quickly calculated his assets. He realized that even though he was quick to earn money, he also used it up quickly. The 300,000 yuan that Dad had left seemed to be running out. Even the 10 gold coins seized last time would probably be lost this time. The scholarly would be poor but rich in martial arts. Teacher was right. If weapons at the 1,000 pounds realm needed such wealth, what about those at 10,000 stones realm? What about the soaring realm? Cultivation techniques, martial techniques, weapons, essence blood, pills. Su Yu shuddered at the thought. No wonder those guys from the Wind Arrest Hall spared no effort in hunting down the members of the All Races sect. They couldn't wait to dig 3 feet into the ground. That was all money. Killing one would earn him 1 merit point in the early stage, 2 in the middle stage, and 3 in the late stage. This was much higher than the salary. Soon, Su Yu obtained the blood essence. As for the weapons, he didn't look at them much. They were all standard in the Nanyuan, similar to the military. If he wanted to customize it, he would have to go to the Great Xia Prefecture. Moreover, the price was too high. If they didn't have the money, they would have to use standard ones. A medium-grade yellow-rank standard saber cost 150,000 yuan, after discount. The reason why he used a saber was because Su Yu used a saber in the academy. His father also learned how to use a saber in the military, and a saber was the courage of 100 soldiers. Actually, the main reason was that it was easy to get started. Weapons like spears, swords, and halberds were harder to learn than saber techniques. One could cut randomly with a saber and would not hurt oneself so easily. If one were to use a sword, the soft sword was the easiest to get oneself wounded. After paying all the money, Su Yu only left 30,000 yuan in cash for food. As for the idea of buying a martial technique, he completely gave up. He had no more money. There were still some merit points left, but they were still useful. Su Yu couldn't bear to waste them. 3 drops of blood essence to open the atlas 3 times. If I don't cultivate or use my skills, I can actually use it very quickly. Sigh, spending money like water. It's too difficult for me. Su Yu took the items and calculated for a while again. He hoped that he could reach the 9th level of the Origin Opening Realm with the remaining 3 drops of Origin Chi Liquid and 13 merit points. He didn't have the ability to earn money in the short term. In this day and age, Origin Opening Realm was worthless, and so was 1,000 Pound Realm. If his teacher had not brought him to hunt down the members of the All Races sect, he would not have had the chance to obtain a few merit points. The Nanyuan did not lack 1,000 Pound Realm, and a large group of 1,000 Pound Realm was clamoring for the Wind Arrest Hall to release the members of the All Races sect for them to kill. How Z? What happened? Walking out of the Xia Trading Company with Su Yu, Chen Hao, who was still thinking about eating demon beast meat, was a little confused. Why did you call me? Do you think, if I sell my family's house and my dad comes back and finds it's gone, he'll beat me to death? Chen Hao was stunned. Ayu was going to sell his house. Su Yu muttered, even if I sell the house, 500,000 yuan is still worth it. I'm just afraid. If my father comes back one day and finds that the house is gone and he can't find a home, he can bring a knife and kill me on the road. Chen Hao hurriedly nodded and said, don't court death. If I sell my house, my parents will hunt me down for the rest of my life. You, don't be rash. Chen Hao wiped the sweat off his forehead. When a star student went crazy, he was even scarier than him. I was just saying. Can I really sell it? Su Yu laughed. How could he sell his house? Besides, I can't sell it. The house was in my dad's name. He wasn't home, and he hadn't transferred it to me. Where could I sell it? Sigh, before Dad left, I actually didn't think of letting him transfer the house. Otherwise, I still have a backup plan. I can sell the house at the critical moment. The all-skies battlefield. In a military camp. Su Long muttered, I left more than 300,000 yuan for that kid and sent the salary card back next month. A basic salary of 10,000 yuan is enough for him to spend for the rest of his life. Next time I go back, if that kid doesn't spend money recklessly, it should be enough to buy a smaller house in the Great Xia Prefecture, right? Su Long muttered for a while and felt that it should be about there. His son was not someone who spent money recklessly. Chapter 90, A Corner of the Curtain, 1. Chapter 90, A Corner of the Curtain, 1. It was getting closer and closer to the assessment time for the high-grade academy. The next day, when Su Yu arrived at the academy, he felt the tension in the air. The preparatory students walked faster than the other students. They came and went in a hurry. The heat of the duel passed in an instant. At this moment, the students were no longer in the mood to fight. Su Yu had wanted to look for Lu Wenyan, but halfway there, he met someone he didn't expect to meet. Xia Bing. Captain of the Longwu Guards. Head of the Longwu Guards stationed in Nanyuan. Apart from the time when the all-races sect attacked, the Longwu Guards were stationed at Nanyuan Academy. Other than that, the Longwu Guards were not at Nanyuan Academy. As for where they were, not many people in Nanyuan knew. A second-level soaring realm expert who was at the same realm as City Lord Wu Wenhai. Su Yu naturally knew how powerful the Longwu Guards were. He had always wanted to enter the Longwu Guards. In fact, Su Yu had such thoughts even now. However, it was difficult to enter the Longwu Guards. His father had yearned for it for many years but had failed. When Su Yu saw Xia Bing naturally saw him too. Xia Bing, who was originally in a hurry, suddenly stopped when she passed by Su Yu. Turning his head to look at Su Yu felt his gaze and hurriedly stopped. He bowed and said, Lord Xia. Xia Bing nodded slightly and looked at him for a while with a strange expression. You're at the 8th level of the Origin Opening Realm. Su Yu was slightly shocked and quickly said, I just broke through yesterday. Very fast. Xia Bing said, I originally thought that you would quickly reach the 7th level. The 8th level of the Origin Opening Realm is slightly beyond my expectations. Su Yu didn't know how to respond. Was Xia Bing paying attention to him? He had no dealings with Xia Bing. Xia Bing said with a straight face, Bai Feng's Origin Opening art is only a dabbler. The fact that you can quickly step into the 8th level, that you're quite talented in the path of a fighter. I knew your father. He's been coming to our station a lot in the past few years, but he's not qualified to join the Longwu Guards. Su Yu was a little embarrassed and found it difficult to continue. Xia Bing ignored his reaction and continued, I'm also a member of the Devil Suppression Army, but I joined the army later than your father. I only joined the army when your father retired from the army. 6 years ago, I was transferred back to the Longwu Guards and served as the commander of the Longwu Guards in the Nanyuan. Su Yu still didn't reply. He didn't know why Xia Bing was telling him all this. Great Xia Civilization Academy isn't as good as you think. They scheme and scheme against each other. They don't look up until they materialize. I don't like people from Great Xia Civilization Academy. I like War Academy better. I like Longwu Guards better, but it's nothing to do with you, of course. When Xia Bing said these words, his expression was serious. Your father said that he can't come to the Longwu Guards. He hopes that his son can enter the Longwu Guards one day and continue to follow the general to battle. You can consider the Dragon Martial War Academy. It's cleaner than the Great Xia Civilization Academy. My lord. Su Yu was a little surprised. Was Xia Bing recruiting students? Xia Bing said calmly, the Longwu guards are stationed in various cities and are also in charge of the reserve selection. You weren't qualified before, but you are now. Of course, I'm just suggesting, nothing else. I shouldn't have said so much, but your father is a veteran of the Devil Suppression Army, after all. Let me say a few more words. Nowadays, the Great Xia Civilization Academy is much more complicated than it was back then. It's not peaceful internally. There are many factions, and a group of fellows who originally only did research now have more thoughts and ideas. It's a mess. Your teacher, Lu Wenyan, Bai Feng, who wants to take you in as a student, and Bai Feng's teacher, researcher Hong. They are from the same faction, and the inside story is more complicated than I said. In short, it won't do you any good if you get involved now. Su Yu was at a loss and at a loss. He said softly, "Sir, I don't quite understand what you mean. I'm just a student from an intermediate academy who hasn't been assessed yet. You'll understand sooner or later." Xia Bing said firmly, "Remember, Great Xia Prefecture is still the Great Xia Prefecture." After saying this, Xia Bing turned around and left. Su Yu fell into deep thought. After a moment, he smiled bitterly and left. He really did not quite understand what Xia Bing meant. Of course, there was also a warning in Xia Bing's words. Going to the Great Xia Civilization Academy might not be a good thing. The Martial Dragon War Academy might be purer. In the past, Su Yu would have been very happy. But now, he had already made up his mind to go to the Great Xia Civilization Academy. In terms of willpower alone, going to the War Academy was definitely inferior to the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Moreover, Lu Wenyan had taught him for so long. He had originally wanted to go to the Great Xia Civilization Academy because he was worried that it would not be of any help to his combat strength. In the office. This time, Lu Wenyan wasn't reading but writing. Lu Wenyan's handwriting was very good. At least, Su Yu felt that it was 100 times better than his own. With a mind to. Lu Wenyan continued writing without looking up, but he felt Su Yu's hesitation. "No, I just met Sergeant Xia. He sent you to Dragon Martial War Academy." Amen. Ignore him. Lu Wenyan did not look exasperated, but he was a little emotional. Did he say that the Great Xia Civilization Academy is not suitable for you, or that it has changed? Well. It's okay. It's not the first time he said that. In fact, a lot of people in the Longwu Guards say it. Lu Wenyan said calmly, "He's also telling the truth. The Great Xia Civilization Academy is indeed a little different from back then. The 5th generation dean died and the 6th generation dean took over. After that, the Great Xia Civilization Academy entered a period of rapid development. During this period, it also brought some bad effects." Chapter 91, A Corner of the Curtain, 2. Chapter 91, A Corner of the Curtain, 2. 50 years ago, the civilized academy wasn't as strong as it is now, but it wasn't as chaotic as it is now either. It's inevitable. When people become strong, they naturally have some other thoughts. Scheming, mutual deception, competition for benefits. This is something that must be experienced and also a form of training. Whoever can rise in this environment is the true powerhouse. Su Yu frowned. "Teacher, is the Great Xia Civilization Academy very chaotic?" "It's not very messy. It's still generally under control. Of course, there are some clandestine affairs." Lu Wenyan looked up at him and at this student who had satisfied him. He said calmly, "The Longwu Guards are a little dissatisfied with the Great Xia Civilization Academy. This comes from Prefecture Lord Xia." "Huh?" Su Yu said in surprise, "Prefecture Lord Xia is dissatisfied with the Great Xia Civilization Academy? I guess." Lu Wenyan sighed and said, "This was originally far away from you, so there's actually no need to pay too much attention to it. However, since Xia Bing has started it, I'll say a few words. Prefecture Master Xia. I can't comment on him, but everyone has an understanding of him. He's cold-blooded, powerful, and stubborn. Those 3 words sum up Prefecture Lord Xiao. Stubborn? Su Yu caught the main point and quickly said, stubborn. Literally. Lu Wenyan put down his pen. It's not exactly derogatory, but Prefecture Lord Xia has had some political disagreements with many people. It also caused a lot of resistance in the All Skies battlefield back then. Why? He's too stubborn. On the All Skies battlefield, when all races fight, some races are great enemies that must be killed. Some races can be roped in and divided. At the very least, they can make the other party remain neutral. Lu Wenyan shook his head and sighed. However, when Prefecture Lord Xia was commanding the Devil Suppression Army, he led the army to kill many racial armies. This caused the few major races that were originally neutral to begin to be somewhat hostile to the human race, so he was removed from his position. The Devil Suppression Army was no longer under his command. Su Yu wanted to say something but hesitated. He quickly made up his mind and said, "Teacher, the so-called neutral races are just sitting on the mountain and watching the tigers fight. Once the human race weakens, these fellows will quickly swarm over and devour the human race's territory. I've also heard my father mention the few major battles of the Devil Suppression Army and the great victory. I think those major races should be killed. You're not the only one who thinks so." Lu Wenyan chuckled. Many people support Xiao Longwu, including the Frontline Legion. Many people are supporting him. I didn't say that what Xiao Longwu did was wrong. It's just that, it's actually normal for there to be disagreements within the human race. What do you think? Lu Wenyan looked at this student and smiled. It was good to have your own opinions. It was bad to blindly agree with others and not think about it. There are all kinds of people. You can't make everyone have the same will. No one says that what Prefecture Lord Xia did must be wrong, but I have to admit that the human race has fought more wars because of this than before. In local areas, wars break out faster and more fiercely. Su Yu disagreed, at least we managed to intimidate a group of neutral races. I guess. Lu Wenyan nodded. Let's not discuss this first. After all, this is a problem at the front line. The reason why Prefecture Lord Xia is a little dissatisfied with the Great Xia Civilization Academy is because a portion of the people here have raised some ideas. Know yourself and know your enemy. Great Xia Civilization Academy is willing to open up to all races. What? Su Yu was shocked. Recruiting students from all races. Lu Wenyan said in a low voice, the current president of the Great Xia Civilization Academy is also a capable person. Back then, he suggested that instead of letting the human race explore and analyze the all-races civilization, it's better to let these people enter the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Who can understand their own civilization better than all races? Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win 100 battles. Let them analyze it themselves, let them contribute their cultural heritage. Su Yu exclaimed, doesn't that mean we have to open up human civilization to them? Yes. Lu Wenyan said in a low voice, the all races are not stupid. Would they give the human race a way to deal with them for nothing? If the human race wants their things, they also want to understand the human race more deeply. So it's a double-edged sword. That's why it hasn't worked all these years. There are a lot of people against it, and a lot of people who support it. Prefecture Lord Xia refused, which led to some disagreement. Prefecture Lord Xia even. Forget it, let's not talk about this. Su Yu, on the other hand, was anxious. You're leaving me hanging. Teacher, what happened to Prefecture Lord Xia? Lu Wenyan saw his impatient look and said with amusement, this matter is hard to say. It's considered a dark history. Don't mention it when you reach the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Yes, definitely. Lu Wenyan smiled and shook his head. 12 years ago, the Great Xia Civilization Academy made such a suggestion again. At that time, Prefecture Lord Xia did not appear, and the Great Xia Prefecture remained silent. If the acting Prefecture Lord thinks he hasn't made a sound, then that's a yes. So at that time, he contacted a few small clans and wanted to make an attempt to recruit a few students from small clans into the Great Xia Civilization Academy. In the end, not long after they arrived, a battle broke out in the All-Skies battlefield. Prefecture Lord Xia led the Longwu guards to attack these small clans and directly destroyed their nest. They seized a large number of cultivation techniques, secret manuals, and other resources. Prefecture Lord Xia didn't come to the Great Xia Civilization Academy either, but he asked the Longwu guards to send over tens of thousands of books. The meaning is very clear. I'm willing to take what you've been searching for on the battlefield. Chapter 92, A Corner of the Curtain, 3. Chapter 92, A Corner of the Curtain, 3. Lu Wenyan sighed. This time, the plan for the all races to enter the academy is completely shattered. They sent people here, but you destroyed their nest. Will the others still dare to come? Can they still come? What the current prefecture lord had been trying to do by contacting all parties for years was completely crushed. As Suyu listened, for some reason, he suddenly felt his blood boil. He said in a muffled voice, "Isn't that great? I'll get what I want myself." He would rather take it directly than ask for it. I didn't say it was bad, but it's indeed a little scary. Lu Wenyan said softly, "It's impossible for the human race to defend against all races. Suyu, you have to understand this. Small clans and weak clans can be won over. When we contacted those small clans, it meant that we could rope them in. In the end, they were wiped out. This will make the other small clans suffer. Once we push them to the enemy side, one family won't be a match for the human race, but what if 10 families and 100 families join forces? You can't kill your way through." Suyu nodded slightly. He understood this, but Su Long's actions were indeed inspiring. So, disagreement arose. Lu Wenyan sighed and said, "Prefecture Lord Xia is very stubborn. He feels that a head falling to the ground can intimidate the all-skies battlefield. But many people feel that this way, the human race will be in an even more difficult situation." Fortunately, Prefecture Lord Xia was ordered not to appear on the all-skies battlefield again. Only then did the anger of many small races calm down. Lu Wenyan sighed and said, "Manor Master Xia is very stubborn. He feels that a head falling to the ground can intimidate the myriad races. But many people feel that this way, the human race will be in an even more difficult situation." Fortunately, Manor Master Xia was ordered not to appear on the battlefield of the heavens again. Only then did the anger of many small races calm down. "Not really." Lu Wenyan chuckled and said, "It's just some concessions made by the experts at the front line. It's mainly to appease the small clans among the all races. In fact, if Prefecture Lord Xia really wants to go and not cause a commotion, who will care? Who would let a top expert retire in the rear? And, it might not be a bad thing. Give him some time to polish his realm. At that time, he improved too quickly. He had to relax and relax to better take that step." Lu Wenyan explained, "That's not a bad thing. Prefecture Lord knows it himself. Otherwise, with his personality, do you think he would be so obedient that he would be willing to stay here if he was told to stay in the Great Xia Prefecture?" Lu Wenyan chuckled and said, "You're underestimating our Prefecture Lord too much. Even though he hasn't been to the all-skies battlefield much in the past few years, it's not that he hasn't been there. The all-skies battlefield is too big, so who will keep an eye on him? The Longwu guards also often appear on the all-skies battlefield. The official army is often pulled to train soldiers, so the combat power of the Great Xia Prefecture is top-notch in the various prefectures." Suyu nodded silently. At this moment, he understood what Xia Bing meant. Lu Wenyan exhaled lightly and said, just listen to these things. Not only are you not qualified to participate, but even Bai Feng and his teacher are not qualified to participate. This is a matter of another level. Actually, it has nothing to do with us. Xia Bing thinks you have some talent. You'll be affected if you go to a civilized school. In fact, I'd rather you were affected. Lu Wenyan said slowly, there are all kinds of people in life. There are experiences everywhere. A pure environment is suitable for soldiers. The military needs to be pure, but the strong need to be knowledgeable. When you don't see the dangers of the human heart, don't experience schemes and don't experience infighting. When you go to the battlefield, perhaps a small scheme will trip you over. Xia Bing doesn't understand. If you really don't like the Great Xia Civilization Academy, why didn't you restrict it and let it continue to grow? He's stubborn, but he's not stupid. The Great Xia Prefecture also needs different voices to nurture experts in different directions. Otherwise, there wouldn't be experts from the civilized academy in the various legions. Many experts are leading troops into battle. Su Yu nodded again. He vaguely understood. Of course, he was still very weak and ordinary. He was only listening to these deep-level confrontations at the moment. When he was an observer and his real body was in the field, he might feel different and think differently. Teacher, will my father be fine in the Devil Suppression Army? No, there are still many invincible experts guarding the front line. Who would dare to target the Devil Suppression Army at the front line? Lu Wenyan shook his head. The competition is only at the back. The front line is the lifeline. No one dares to fight there. It's much purer over there. War is war. If the back line has a dog's brain, the front line has to obey orders. Even Prefecture Lord Xia has to report to a few invincible experts about the actions of the large army and get permission to march when he's at the front line unless he acts alone in private. Su Yu's eyes flickered slightly as he said, then the Longwu Guards and the Devil Suppression Army were allowed to kill the various races' legions? Of course. Lu Wenyan also smiled and said, do you think that no one will allow Prefecture Lord Xia to start a dispute without permission? There are many invincible experts who support him. I see. Su Yu heaved a sigh of relief. He was suddenly worried that Xia Longwu would be targeted. Now that he thought about it, he was really free. He, a little origin opening realm, was actually worried about a Prefecture Lord expert. Let's not talk about this anymore. Lu Wenyan smiled. You'll know what you're supposed to know later. What you're not supposed to know won't do any good. Other than messing with your mind, there's nothing to be gained. You're at the 8th level of the origin opening realm. I can feel the origin chi fluctuations around you. Looks like your progress is not slow. Lu Wenyan was very satisfied and said, get ready. I'll write a words of will for you in the afternoon. It's the 1,000-pound chapter of the Thunder Origin Saber. Read the translated version in the morning and understand the content. Su Yu was overjoyed. Teacher, it's a martial technique? It's a martial technique. Seeing his joy, Lu Wenyan said indifferently, but you might not be able to gain anything. Even if you do, I'm afraid it won't be much. After all, you've only opened 8 apertures. It's too little. Even if you learn it, you might not be able to use it. The Thunder Origin Saber uses many apertures. Yes, I know. Su Yu hurriedly nodded and couldn't help but feel happy. He knew the benefits of the words of will. The feeling of being taught personally was completely different. Of course, this also required the transcriber to have an extremely deep grasp of this martial technique. Otherwise, even if it was written, it would only be the transcriber's comprehension. If the other party did not have a deep grasp, it would be useless for him to comprehend it. Chapter 93, Turbulent Storm, 1. Chapter 93, Turbulent Storm, 1. The Great Xia Prefecture. Just as Lu Wenyan and Su Yu were discussing, someone was arguing in the city lord's residence. There were few people in the empty hall. Xia Longwu sat upright and looked straight down. Below, an old man on the left, a figure like the great Xia prefecture's garrison commander, was smiling and listening silently. The old man on the right was elegant and easygoing. He also had a smile on his face and silver-white hair. At this moment, he was also silent. Apart from these two, there was a muscular middle-aged man in the hall. At this moment, he stood up alone and shouted angrily, "Wan Tiansheng, stop spreading your tricks. This is the great Xia prefecture, not the Seeking realm." The person who shouted angrily was the silver-haired old man on the right. Myriad Heavenly Saint, the 6th-generation prefecture lord of the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Wan Tiansheng's smile was easygoing. Even though the burly man was angry, he was calm. His voice was not loud, but he could hear him clearly. He said slowly, "Zhengping, speak properly. Don't speak so loudly. I'm not deaf. I can hear you." The myriad heavenly saint was still smiling as he spoke, as if they were just neighbors chatting. He said softly, "It's time for the Longwu guards to retreat. We've fought what needs to be fought. In the battle with the heavenly god race, we lost nearly 1,000 guards. We suffered heavy losses. When it's time to show your fists, then show them. I have no objections. But now, are we really going to destroy the heavenly god race?" Wan Tiansheng looked at Xiao Longwu and said softly, "Prefecture Lord, you should understand that it's impossible. The heavenly god race only sent 10,000 soldiers into the all-skies battlefield, which is not all of their might. If we continue the pursuit, we might create more results, but we'll need to take more lives to fill it. The prefecture lord is prepared to throw in all 3,000 Longwu guards." After saying that, the myriad heavenly saint shook his head and said, "There's no need for that. It's too rash. We've already fought. At this moment, we should talk. Go and talk to the heavenly god race and let them evacuate at a certain price." At this point, the burly man said angrily, "We've already surrounded them. They're already close to the edge. This 10,000 strong guard can clearly be killed. What's your motive for letting them go? Did the heavenly god race bribe you?" Wan Tiansheng was not angry. He smiled and said, "Zhengping, there's no need for personal attacks. I don't deny that we can take down the other party. The key is it worth it? The Great Xia Prefecture spent a lot of money to build the 3,000 Longwu guards. Now, we're throwing all of them in just for a 10,000-man guard. There are people from your War Academy and our Civilization Academy inside. They're all elites. Just to throw in a random army?" The myriad heavenly saint sighed softly. "Some people don't like to use their brains and only like to fight and kill. This kind of person should be thrown onto the battlefield as a soldier. Don't let him command." The burly man said coldly, "I've been in the army for 30 years and fought my way out." The myriad heavenly saint laughed and said softly, "So why don't you just be your fighter? Why do you have to get involved in the big plan?" The burly man said angrily, "I know you look down on me, and I don't need you to think highly of me. But as long as we mobilize the remaining 2,000 Longwu guards from the Great Xia Prefecture, we can wipe them out without paying a huge price." The burly man said indignantly, "We lost nearly 1,000 people and forced them into a corner. Myriad Heavenly Saint, have you considered what the Longwu guards will think if you ask the Great Xia Prefecture to withdraw at this time? Are the soldiers at the front line willing? I'm a soldier. I understand them. They're indignant. They're aggrieved. They lost a third of their comrades and have the absolute upper hand. At this moment, they've forced the enemy into a corner. No one will be willing to give up now." The burly man's eyes were red. "We paid so much to win this war. So we need to make up for it." Myriad Heavenly Saint said softly, "War is not about fighting. Zhengping, after so many years, why don't you understand? Sometimes, winning or losing doesn't depend on how many people you kill or how much you gain. I don't like the way the Great Xia Prefecture fights. Kill them all. Not good, very bad. If you do this, you will only inspire the enemy to resist. You will only make them fight to the death. When it's time to stop, stop immediately. Let them use cultivation techniques, martial techniques, divine blood, and natural treasures to exchange for their lives. Next time, another war. Halfway through, when they lose 30%, they'll think about surrendering and paying for their lives. Disintegrate their fighting spirit, not inspire it. Myriad Heavenly Saint sighed and said, the Great Xia Prefecture has fought so many battles over the years. Yes, they killed the most enemies every time, but they also lost the most and gained the least. The enemy's fighting spirit has been stimulated by you. All the races in the All-Skies battlefield know that if they encounter people from the Great Zhou Prefecture, they can spend money to buy their lives if they can't win. If they encounter the Great Xia Prefecture, then they will fight to the death. Zhou Patian did very well in this aspect. Even the Great Ming Prefecture did better than us. The Great Xia Prefecture's elite troops are invincible on the battlefield, but, what about losses? What about compensation? The Myriad Heavenly Saint shook his head and sighed. Zheng Ping, I think the Prefecture Lord should send you to the treasury to see if it's empty. Zheng Ping's body trembled slightly as he looked at Xia Longwu. Xia Longwu, who had been silent all this while, saw Zheng Ping looking at him and said calmly, there is not enough in the treasury but it's fine. The Great Xia Prefecture can afford it. Chapter 94, Turbulent Storm, 2. Chapter 94, Turbulent Storm, 2. Wan Tianxing chuckled. Do you mean, to continue fighting? Xia Longwu looked at him and said indifferently, Wan Tianxing, you're right about some things. When the Great Xia Mansion goes to war, the losses are the greatest and the gains the smallest. I know these things better than you, but all these years, I've only listened to what you say and never taken it seriously. Do you know why? Myriad Heavenly Saint was not surprised. He said slowly, understood. The Prefecture Lord needs to train the strongest army of the human race. Let the human race have a vanguard army that can fight a fierce battle. I'm glad you understand. Xia Longwu stood up and said coldly, in the past, the Great Zhou Prefecture was the strongest. The Great Zhou army swept through the battlefield and was invincible. At that time, they were like this. If they won, the enemy could buy their lives with money. 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 100 years. When they went to war with the heavens once, they clearly forced the enemy into a desperate situation. They felt that they could close the net and reap the rewards, but, they were wrong. That elite God race legion fought to the death. With 10,000 troops, they defeated the careless Great Zhou's 100,000 strong army. The Great Zhou army has already forgotten to fight to the death. The 100,000 strong army, actually collapsed. Xia Longwu sneered. This is the battle of the falling Zhou Ci recorded by the human race. A crushing defeat. The 100,000 most elite troops were defeated by a remnant army. It's unbelievable. All the races in the world are shocked. All the races suddenly realize that, the most elite troops of the human race are actually paper tigers. Xia Longwu's expression turned cold. The so-called invincible Great Zhou army destroyed the legend just like that. Because they're used to it. Why did so many people die in war? Xia Longwu looked at Myriad Heavenly Saint and said in a deep voice, the lesson is right in front of us. Myriad Heavenly Saint, do you still think there's no need to fight a tough battle? Not so. The Myriad Heavenly Saint shook his head and continued, but the Great Xia Prefecture really can't hold on anymore. Prefecture Lord, Zhang Qi is righteous. We can't completely deny the Great Zhou army just because they lost once. The reason why the Great Zhou army can quickly rise again is because they gained a lot in the past, so they can quickly build another elite corps. As for our great Xia prefecture, if we lose the Longwu guards, it will be difficult to build another Longwu guards. Xia Longwu assumed a commanding position as he looked down condescendingly. The myriad heavenly saint did not avoid him. He looked straight at Xia Longwu and said again, retreat. Negotiate. Buy your lives with resources. I, Xia Longwu, am the soul of the great Xia prefecture. I can't retreat. You'll still have to retreat. The previously refined myriad heavenly saint was aggressive, his eyes sharp. If we don't retreat, the Great Xia Civilization Academy will never provide the Longwu guards with a single soldier again. No more civilization masters will enter the Longwu guards to fight. Are you threatening me? Xia Longwu's tone was low. Myriad Heavenly Saint stood up with a serious expression. I won't retreat. I'd rather let the teachers and students in the academy join the Great Zhou Prefecture than let the students of the academy die on the all-skies battlefield in order to achieve your reputation. Be ****. Zheng Ping said angrily, Myriad Heavenly Saint, are you going to betray the Great Xia Prefecture? No, I'm saving the Great Xia Prefecture. I'm willing to fight for the human race, not for the lone man. Myriad Heavenly Saint suddenly took off the crown on his head and said in a deep voice, Myriad Heavenly Saint requests to resign from his position as the head of the Great Xia Prefecture. Xia Longwu stared at him for a long time without saying anything. At this moment, the old man on the left smiled and said, Prefecture Lord Wan, stop teasing Prefecture Lord Zheng. Zheng Ping frowned at them, a little unhappy. What did he mean? The old man chuckled. We still have to retreat. The Great Xia Prefecture has been fighting for decades and has suffered too much. The losses are too great. This time, the Prefecture Lord summoned you to discuss this matter. Since you've guessed it, why should you embarrass the Prefecture Lord? Myriad Heavenly Saint pretended to be confused. What do you mean? The old man laughed and shook his head. You're still the same as before. Let me tell you. Can't you guys calm down? The Prefecture Lord wants to retreat, but he can't. He's a banner of the human race and the soul of the Great Xia Prefecture. If he retreats, what will the frontline soldiers think? He's not the shameless Zhu Tiandao. The hall, which had been at daggers drawn, was suddenly filled with laughter. Even the unsmiling Xia Longwu sat down at this moment and coughed lightly. Nonsense. Don't spout nonsense. Manner Lord Zhu. Ahem, you still have to be shameless when you need to be. Everyone laughed. The old man also laughed. Yes, I was wrong. Let's not talk about that. Let's continue the topic just now. It's necessary to retreat. The Longwu guards can't exchange thousands of people for the 10,000 guards of the heavenly E-God race. But not in the name of the Prefecture Lord. The Prefecture Lord has killed a few experts of the heavenly E-God race. He needs to enter seclusion immediately. I've gathered the two of you here today for the grand ceremony in a few days. The Prefecture Lord is in seclusion, and Lord Xia Ho will temporarily take over the position of the Residence Master. At that time, Myriad Heavenly Saint, you can come again, like today. The old man smiled. Tell Lord Xia Ho to retreat. The governor is in seclusion and doesn't care about anything. It has nothing to do with him. Even if the soldiers on the front line are dissatisfied, it doesn't matter. Lord Xia Ho won't care about these things. Lord Xia Hua is a merchant to begin with. Let him talk to the heavenly E-God race about compensation, about losses, and about the price. At that time, the heavenly E-God race will not suspect anything, and the all races would not see the weakness of the Great Xia Prefecture. At this moment, Zheng Ping understood and couldn't help but scold in a low voice, Old man, is this appropriate? Lord Xia Ho. Every time you have a scapegoat, you throw it on him. Now, there are already countless criticisms outside. Chapter 95, Turbulent Storm, 3. Chapter 95, Turbulent Storm, 3. So I don't care about another infamy. The old man smiled and said, Prefecture Lord Zheng, Prefecture Lord Wan is actually right. The Great Xia Prefecture's treasury is almost empty. We really can't continue fighting like this. We can't build a second Longwu Guards. If we finish fighting this group of strong soldiers, the Great Xia Prefecture's elites will be finished. It's just the Heavenly Yi God race. It's not like we're going to directly destroy their God race. Why should we keep an eye on a 10,000 strong guard? The Prefecture Lord is in seclusion and Lord Xia Ho is in charge. He cares about money and not reputation. All the races in the world know. He chose to withdraw his troops so that Heavenly Yi God race could compensate and fill the Great Xia Prefecture's coffers. Who could object? The old man smiled brightly. The Heavenly Yi God race will probably be glad that Lord Xia Ho is in charge and not the Prefecture Lord to continue to control the Longwu Guards. Otherwise, this 10,000-man guard would really be finished. The Prefecture Lord is famous for not lowering his head. If the Prefecture Lord withdraws at this time, it will be unbelievable. They will feel that the Great Xia Prefecture is really finished. Zheng Ping wanted to say something but hesitated. After a moment, he said in a muffled voice, Is it really that serious? Really? The vault is really almost empty. The old man sighed. Otherwise, after fighting for so many years, why would they choose to compromise now? The Heavenly Yi God race still dares to attack the Great Xia Prefecture. According to their previous attitude, they will not stop until they are hurt. But now we really have to build up our strength. The old man said seriously, the Prefecture Lord chose to enter seclusion at this time because of this. We can't fight anymore. Not only the Longwu Guards, but the Devil Suppression Army has also issued many recruitment orders for veterans. The losses are too great, including the Devil Suppression Army. We have to stop for a while. The Great Xia Prefecture looks powerful, but in fact, it's already out of stock. It has made a name for itself over the years. It's necessary for it to choose to recuperate now. When the Great Xia Prefecture recovers, when the Prefecture Lord comes out of seclusion. At that time, the Prefecture Lord will also be invincible. Xia Longwu said indifferently at the side, I originally wanted to kill my way into the heavenly battlefield and kill a king to help me ascend to this realm. However, in order to be safe, I'll conserve my energy and postpone this battle. In a few years, I believe the Great Xia Prefecture can recover. The Prefecture Lord is wise. The myriad heavenly saint greeted him. With this choice, the Great Xia Prefecture has a chance. Xia Longwu did not buy it. He said indifferently, Didn't you want to resign? How about this? You can resign at the ceremony in a few days. Since Zhou Patian wants you, you can go over. You jest, Prefecture Lord. Myriad heavenly saints' expression did not change. It was just a demonstration just now to prevent Lord Xia Ho from seeing through the clues during the ceremony and others from seeing through the truth. Zhou Patian is cunning and disdainful. Haha. Xia Longwu sneered. These words, convey to Zhou Patian. He told the old man on his left. The old man smiled and looked at Zheng Ping. He said with a smile, Prefecture Lord Zheng, please convey these words to Prefecture Lord Zhou and Prefecture Lord Wan without missing a word. Zheng Ping's face was dark, and he did not say anything. Xia Longwu ignored them and stood up. This matter has been decided. The Longwu Guards will quickly retreat. The Heavenly Yi God race needs to pay the price, and I will go into seclusion. When I come out of seclusion, I will attack the Heavenly Yi God race. The few people below agreed and no one else had any objections. Myriad heavenly saint smiled. Before he left, he glanced at Zheng Ping and sighed. Brute, you're not good enough. Zheng Ping's face darkened. Old man, there will be a lot of crying in your residence this year. The myriad heavenly saint didn't mind. Instead, he smiled happily. I'll wait. Hit hard. In the past, your people from the War Academy were too weak and their punches were too light. It was as if they didn't eat. If you guys go again this year, I'll provide you with 5,000 kilograms of blood food for free. Eat your fill and use more strength. If you defeat half of the students, I'll give you a banner. There are too many people in the Great Xia Civilization Academy. What do you need so many people for? Myriad Heavenly Saint shook his head and said, they're just a bunch of mediocre people. I've long wanted to streamline the organization. If it weren't for those old fellows stopping me, I would have only recruited 1,000 people a year. Old Zheng, I'll have to trouble you this time. It'll be hard on you. After fighting off 1,000 people, I'll personally lead the teachers and students of the academy to deliver the pennant to you. Zheng Ping's expression turned even uglier. He had never won against this old man. The myriad heavenly saint laughed heartily and slowly walked out of the hall. He sighed and said, the War Academy has fallen. Sigh. The Martial Dragon War Academy is a little interesting. It's a pity that your Great Xia War Academy has lost 1,000 people this year. I look down on you. With that, the myriad heavenly saint disappeared. After he left, Zheng Ping suddenly said weakly, this old man is getting more and more difficult to deal with. Master, is the Great Xia Prefecture really going to switch from offense to defense? Beside him, Xia Longwu, who had just left, had appeared again. After seeing the myriad heavenly saint leave, Xia Longwu was silent for a moment before saying softly, not to defend, but to wait. Wait for his origin chi to recover. The myriad heavenly saint waited for so many years until the Great Xia Prefecture was powerless, so, he won. Zheng Ping sighed again. I'm a little afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of losing the will to fight, the confidence, the morale. Zheng Ping turned to look at Xia Longwu with a complicated expression. I'm afraid that after we retreat, the hearts of the people in the Great Xia Prefecture will change. What will be will be. Xia Longwu said indifferently, we can't fight for the rest of our lives. We have to return to the battlefield and the veterans are discharged. It's necessary to recuperate. It's better to recuperate now than when we can't fight. Old Zheng, the War Academy has suffered heavy losses over the years. It's time to rest. After Xia Longwu finished speaking, he stopped speaking and looked a little bleak. He had been so strong all his life. At this moment, he could no longer be strong. Even though he said that he looked down on Zhu Tiandao and Zhou Patian, in reality, he was a little impressed and envious. At least, they died in fewer battles than my Great Xia Prefecture. Xia Longwu muttered to himself as bitterness appeared in his eyes. He wanted to continue fighting, but reality did not allow him to. They were desperate. At this moment, the Great Xia Prefecture was like a raging fire. It looked like flowers were blooming, but in fact, danger was already everywhere. Myriad Heavenly Saint, after all these years of fighting, I'd like to see what you can change. Xia Longwu muttered in his heart. He also wanted to see how far this myriad heavenly saint could go. Great Xia Civilization Academy. I hope there won't be any trouble at the next frontier. Teacher, can you really control it? Xia Longwu chuckled. Teacher. Yes, that was his mentor. However, after all these years, he'd almost forgotten. Chapter 96, Thunder Origin Saber, 1. Chapter 96, Thunder Origin Saber, 1. At Nanyuan Academy. Afternoon. The big office. At this moment, there were many people in the office. Su Yu and Lu Wenyan were not the only ones there. All the students who had hopes of getting into the Great Xia Civilization Academy were here. There were a total of 12 people including Su Yu. Previously, Bai Feng guided him, so Lu Wenyan sent 2 students over. After all, they were outsiders, not Lu Wenyan himself. He did not know if Bai Feng knew how to teach divine runes. Today, he was the one who wrote the words of will. Even though he was biased towards Su Yu, this was a rare opportunity, so Lu Wenyan still called the others over. Lu Wenyan and the old academy head stood together. At the moment, there was a large desk in front of them. There was no paper, instead, an animal skin was spread out on the desk. It's huge. There was also a basin of bright red liquid on the desk that was used as ink. At this moment, Lu Wenyan was grinding ink. The old academy head's eyes still revealed some pain. These were all merit points. More than 100 merit points. The academy had really bled a lot for this words of will. Everyone, watch carefully later. This is a rare opportunity. If you can't take it, close your eyes and rest immediately. Don't force yourself. The old academy head reminded everyone. In fact, it was not suitable for the others to watch this at this moment. Even in the Great Xia Civilization Academy, they would not teach the cultivation of divine runes if their willpower was not at least 20%. Of course, the students would not learn before that. It would be a waste. It was not free to read nor transcribe a words of will on the spot. In the Great Xia Civilization Academy, such a course would cost at least 5 merit points and taught in a big group. Many people would watch it, especially since discounts were given to the students by the Great Xia Civilization Academy. If outsiders wanted to see it, it was not only a matter of merit points, but also a question of whether the civilization master would agree. Writing this consumed a lot of willpower. Today, Teacher Lu taught me the Thunder Origin Saber. It's a low-grade mystic rank martial technique. I'll read as much as I can. The old academy head reminded them again. Because of Lu Wenyan's will, everyone more or less understood the civilization master. Unlike before, there had never been a civilization master in the Nanyuan for decades. At that time, Su Yu and the others were extremely ignorant. No one would discuss something that hadn't appeared in decades. Things were different now. At this moment, the other students were extremely excited. Words of will. An soaring realm cultivator wrote and activated the way of the divine runes. Besides Su Yu, Lu Yu's eyes also lit up. She couldn't help but look at Su Yu beside her. She knew that it was probably because of Su Yu that Teacher Lu wrote the words of will. This was because other than Su Yu, the others, including herself, wouldn't gain much from watching it. It was a waste to write this at this moment. As someone who had read the words of will, she knew how much it cost. If she asked a civilization master to write it, not to mention the materials, but simply to hire a civilization master, he might not be willing to come without 100 merit points. That was the price of killing a soaring realm cultivator. The fullness of his will was only 10% last time. Lu Yu was still a little jealous. She did not understand why Lu Wenyan thought so highly of Su Yu. One had to know that the last time Bai Feng came, her willpower had already reached 15%. During this period of time, she had already begun to try to observe the original fragments of the all races. That meant approaching or reaching 20% capacity. However, in the past month or so, Lu Wenyan had never thought of bringing her along when he brought Su Yu around. Lu Yu was a little envious and jealous, but it quickly turned into a sigh. Perhaps Teacher Lu felt that she was not a student of their class. In fact, Lu Wenyan had never thought so. He just felt that no one else could learn what he taught Su Yu. Origin opening realm ambushing 1,000-pound realm. Wanting to stay in a storeroom full of bodies for a week. Teach more all races sect languages. The others had not even mastered the existing languages. If it was really suitable for everyone, such as this time, he did not teach Su Yu alone. Even if the others did not gain much, not everyone could learn the words of will. In the Great Xia Civilization Academy, it was basic for him to collect 5 merit points each. No, 5 points was not enough at all because 5 points was the foundation. This time, he had copied a mystic rank martial technique like the Thunder Origin Saber. If he accepted 10 or even 20 points, there would probably be students from the Great Xia Civilization Academy who would flock to him. Lu Wenyan did not speak. He had been brewing. He had just materialized his will not long ago. At this moment, transcribing a mystic rank martial technique was actually a little beyond his ability. Perhaps only Su Yu and the others would understand the price they had to pay to write down a mystic rank cultivation technique. In Great Xia Civilization Academy, this was something only formal researchers did. Quiet. Lu Wenyan's shout silenced the students who were whispering. At this moment, Lu Wenyan's expression was serious. His gray hair fluttered, and his body emitted a faint golden light. I'm starting to write officially. Watch and don't make a sound. If you feel you can't take it, close your eyes immediately. Everyone nodded hurriedly. Su Yu was also looking forward to it. A martial technique, and a mystic rank one at that. At this moment, he was looking forward to it. The words of Will was equivalent to an expert who had cultivated the Thunder Origin Saber to an extremely deep realm. It showed you his cultivation process and results in all aspects. Crush it, open it, and teach you bit by bit. This is 100 times better than ordinary teaching. Therefore, this was the reason why the words of Will were hard to come by. Phew! The wind rose. Origin Chi gathered, and the tables and chairs elsewhere in the office swayed. Only the desk in front of Lu Wenyan remained motionless. Chapter 97, Thunder Origin Saber, 2. Chapter 97, Thunder Origin Saber, 2. Lu Wenyan did not use a pen. His blood essence was the ink, and ordinary pens could not withstand it. The civilization master of the Great Xia Civilization Academy had his own personal pen. He did not. He used his finger as a pen. Lu Wenyan's finger was stained with blood and his finger was like a sword. In the next moment, he began to write on the animal skin. Thunder Origin Saber. Boom! It was as if lightning had descended to the world. Just as Lu Wenyan wrote these 3 words, everyone saw lightning surrounding them. Arg! One of the female students was shocked and couldn't help but let out a low cry. Her eyes were filled with fear. She thought she had just seen lightning strike her. The old academy head frowned slightly at the side. It was not that he was dissatisfied with the other party's exclamation, but this meant that her willpower was too weak and she could not withstand it. This was just the beginning. Ah, what a pity. The old academy head felt that it was a pity. He wondered if this student would regret missing such an opportunity today. She could not take it at the beginning, which meant that she had gained almost nothing this time. Close your eyes. The old academy head looked at the girl's pale face and growled. The female student looked frightened and quickly closed her eyes. Her face was still pale and she didn't dare look again. Of the remaining 11 students, Su Yu and Lu Yu's expressions did not change. As for the other 9, some of their faces were pale, while others were considered normal. At this moment, Su Yu was in no mood to pay attention to anyone else. At this moment, he was watching Lu Wenyan write. Another Lu Wenyan seemed to have appeared on the beast skin. He was cultivating the Thunder Origin Saber. Thunder rumbled from all directions. Lu Wenyan stood with his saber in hand and allowed the thunder to erupt. He slashed again and again at a very slow speed, so slow that Su Yu could not wait to see the next strike. Thunder Origin Saber, use 40 apertures. This is the last slash. The Thunder Origin Saber has a total of 9 strikes. Each strike is stronger than the last, and each strike uses more acupoints. Even if you understand and learn it now, you might not be able to use it. To be able to barely make the first slash at the Origin Opening Realm, this means that you're above the 8th level of the Origin Opening Realm. 8 apertures. It's best if you combine 9 apertures. With one slash, your vitality will be completely exhausted, because this is not a martial technique used by Origin Opening Realm. It's best not to use the 8th level of the Origin Opening Realm. Think of the first saber move, the 9th level of the Origin Opening Realm. Combine the 9 apertures and absorb the origin chi of the outside world before using the saber. Otherwise, the 8th level will injure the body. These words were not spoken by Lu Wenyan. At this moment, Lu Wenyan was focused and covered in sweat. It was the old academy head who was reminding everyone, especially Su Yu. The Thunder Origin Saber that Lu Wenyan wrote for him was actually a little beyond Su Yu's ability. However, there was a benefit to this. When Su Yu reached 1,000-pound realm or even 10,000 stone realm, he could always cultivate the Thunder Origin Saber. He wouldn't stop using it when he reached a higher realm. Rumble. Su Yu actually didn't care. At this moment, he only saw the rumbling of thunder and Lu Wenyan practicing his saber technique. Lu Wenyan had already written dozens of words. Several Lu Wenyan appeared on the desk and kept slashing. The same knife. This was the first slash of the Thunder Origin Saber. See. Beside him, someone gasped in pain and quickly closed his eyes. With the first slash, a total of 6 of the remaining 11 people could not watch anymore and closed their eyes. Apart from Su Yu and Lu Yu, the remaining 5 people were also extremely pale. Lu Wenyan continued writing. After a while, the other 3 couldn't take it anymore and closed their eyes. At this moment, even Lu Yu had a headache. Her willpower had recently improved, but Lu Wenyan's first attack was a mystic rank martial technique. It was a little difficult for her to withstand it. The cultivation of the first strike passed quickly. The first slash, lightning. The second slash, thunderclap. This time, there really seemed to be thunder rumbling. The rumbling sounds continued. Lu Wenyan, who was on the beast skin, attacked even faster. His acupoints flickered with light. Boom! The saber was like a myriad of beasts galloping. For the second strike, use 12 apertures points. You can cultivate it in 1,000-pound realm. The old academy head continued to speak. In fact, he was basically saying this for Su Yu to hear. This was because Lu Yu's forehead was covered in sweat and she couldn't hold on much longer. As for Su Yu, even though his face was a little pale, his eyes were bright and deep. It seemed like he could still hold on. No wonder old Lu values. The old academy head thought to himself. He was actually more optimistic about Lu Yu because Lu Yu's willpower was stronger than Su Yu's. Of course, the two of them were about the same now and the difference was not too great. But Lu Yu, compared to Su Yu, the difference was obvious. Observing the words of will required not only willpower but also tenacity. When you were deep in it, the person in the text seemed to be slashing at you. Thunder seemed to be blasting at you too. You're scared. Timid. Feel the pain. You won't be able to take it. Pure willpower only gave you the chance to see more, not necessarily more. After all, Lu Yu is only a girl and has not experienced any major battles. Su Yu has really killed before. The old academy head sighed in his heart. Su Yu had really killed someone before. It wasn't the time when he hunted down the members of the all-races sect with Lu Wenyan, but the time at the academy when Chen Hao reported his contributions. At this moment, the old academy head was certain that it wasn't Chen Hao who killed them, but Su Yu. A student who dared to kill an expert at the 7th level of the Origin Opening Realm when he was at the 4th level of the 1,000-pound realm. This was courage. That's bloody-minded. Of course, there was also recklessness. I hope old Lu was right about him. Even though the old academy head was not strong, he had been on good terms with Lu Wenyan for 40 years and knew far more than the others. Lu Wenyan had been able to remain quiet in the academy for so many years because of the old academy head. Chapter 98, Thunder Origin Saber, 3. Chapter 98, Thunder Origin Saber, 3. 40 years ago, the old academy head, who had been injured and retired from the front line, became the prefecture lord of the Nanyuan Middle School. At that time, he was only at 9th level of the 1,000-pound realm and was very weak. She did not know too much, but she knew one thing: I go through life and death with my comrades. No matter what happened previously, she had to listen to him when she reached Nanyuan Academy. Just like that, he and Lu Wenyan gradually became good friends. The image flashed across the old residence master's mind. In the next moment, he moved and grabbed Lu Yu, dragging her to the side. He frowned and shouted, "Don't force yourself to watch. Prefecture Lord." Lu Yu looked depressed. She turned to look at Su Yu, who was still observing, and suddenly broke down. I can't even finish watching the second slash. Prefecture Lord. She had always felt that she was stronger than Su Yu. The last time Bai Feng wrote the Origin opening art, she was inferior to Su Yu. However, she had at least finished reading the Origin opening art. This time, the difference was too obvious. She hadn't even finished the second cut. At this moment, Su Yu's face was pale, but his eyes were bright. He continued reading while Lu Wenyan was already writing the third stroke. At this moment, Su Yu's face was pale, but his eyes were bright. He continued reading while Lu Wenyan was already writing the third stroke. Thunder. At this moment, Su Yu did not continue to observe the third strike. He realized that he could not understand it. Moreover, Lu Wenyan's strike was too fast and he could not understand it. At that moment, he suddenly saw a word that seemed to come alive. Thunder. Thunder of the Thunder Origin Saber. The most common part of the Thunder Origin Saber was this thunder, which was even more than that saber. This was a saber technique created by an expert after observing lightning. The lightning was powerful, fast, and destructive. That powerhouse had once seen lightning destroy a mountain peak and turn it into scorched earth, so he created the Thunder Origin Saber. At this moment, Su Yu also saw lightning strike. There was only lightning left in front of him. Lightning was destroying everything, bombarding the mountaintop, bombarding the universe. Thunder. Thunder strike is so powerful. Su Yu thought to himself and didn't feel that there was anything to be afraid of. The lightning had a terrifying effect as if it wanted people to be afraid of it. However, Su Yu was really not afraid. In his memory, when he was young, he had dreamed of a monster that erupted with lightning to kill him. As a child, he had been terrified. Scared to death. But now, Su Yu no longer took it seriously. Over the years, he had been struck to death by lightning, torn apart by claws, devoured, his heart hollowed out, dismembered inch by inch. Get used to it. Over 3,000 dreams. Over 3,000 ways to die. When you've been through more than 3,000 ways to die and you're not crazy or broken, that means you've matured. The price of maturity was a little steep. When he was young, he almost died suddenly from not sleeping. It would be much better when he got used to it. Hence, at this moment, Su Yu found the word thunder very funny. So what if it killed him? It's not like I haven't been struck dead before. Such a thought surfaced in Su Yu's mind. After his previous experience, he knew that this was the embodiment of a divine rune that suited him. Divine rune with the word thunder. Su Yu started to catch it. He caught the word thunder on the leg. It looked like legs. It was just a word. He didn't know if there were legs. Anyway, he seemed to have grabbed its leg and dragged it into his head. Lu Wenyan, who was writing Thunder Origin Saber, trembled slightly. He turned his head and looked haggard, but he could not help but smile. This kid had actually discovered another divine rune that suited him. Not that any word could become a divine rune, or that any words of will could make one comprehend it. Only what suits me. Even a genius like Bai Feng had to observe the words of will many times before he could outline his first foundation of divine runes. Some students had to pay a huge price to observe the words of will dozens of times or observe the original writings of many races before they had the chance to outline divine runes. Many people did not outline the divine words until they reached the nurturing stage. They did not even outline the nurturing stage. That was common. Because they hadn't found the divine rune that suited them. On the other hand, Suyu had actually found a suitable divine rune after observing it twice. This surprised Lu Wenyan. Good lad. Lu Wenyan was distracted. This was going to be troublesome. He was too exhausted to continue writing. By the third cut, he was actually having trouble holding on. But if he forced himself to write, he could continue. After some thought, Lu Wenyan gritted his teeth and continued writing. When he reached the fourth stroke, it was enough for him to use it until he reached the peak of the 1,000-pound realm or even 10,000 stone realm. As for the rest, just write something fake. The strokes were real, just don't add willpower. In any case, this kid wouldn't need to use the fourth stroke before 10,000 stone realm. When he reached 10,000 stone realm, if he had the chance, he would write it for him. Lu Wenyan continued writing while Suyu activated his previous mode and beat up the Thunder lackey. This was much harder than the last time. The Thunder underling kept electrocuting him. In reality, Suyu's body trembled as if he had been electrocuted. His hair even stood on end. The old academy head clicked his tongue in wonder. At this moment, Lu Wenyan had already finished writing the fourth stroke and was panting heavily. The old academy head looked at him questioningly. Lu Wenyan shook his head slightly, indicating that he was fine. Next, he began to write the fifth stroke. At this moment, the old academy head clearly felt that something was wrong. This fellow was writing too quickly. Previously, it was extremely difficult to write word by word as if it was being pressed down by a mountain. But now, it was written extremely quickly. The fifth stroke was finished in the blink of an eye. Old Lu. The old academy head was puzzled. What was going on? If it goes well. Lu Wenyan was breathing heavily and his tone didn't change. I wrote it straight, so it's much faster. You can't read it anyway. It wasn't just the old academy head who couldn't understand it. Even Suyu, who wasn't at the nurturing stage, probably couldn't tell if it was real or fake. For stroke is real and the rest are fake. When you figured it out, kid, it wasn't in Nanyuan. Lu Wenyan muttered in his heart. When the time came, he would say that the words of will had faded after a long time. Did Suyu have something to say? Anyway, it's not that I'm useless. It's just that you're too useless. You actually haven't cultivated the fifth saber move for so long. How embarrassing. He had written such a long words of will for nothing. Chapter 99, I can't hold on any longer. 1. Chapter 99, I can't hold on any longer. 1. Lu Wenyan finished writing the remaining 5 strokes and finally let out a long breath. Feeling the old academy head's gaze on him, Lu Wenyan was calm and composed. He said to himself, this thing is getting easier and easier. The old academy head didn't really understand this. The world of the civilization master wasn't something he could understand. He had obtained a lot of knowledge from Lu Wenyan. Upon hearing this, the old academy head's expression changed. He suddenly looked at Lu Wenyan eagerly. Lu Wenyan turned to look and froze. Why so enthusiastic? You can still write? The old academy head's words made Lu Wenyan's heart skip a beat. Old Lu. The old governor quickly came over and whispered, can I really write it? Is it that simple? I'll find a rich businessman to sell a piece of will written by a soaring realm civilization master to their descendants. I won't even get 300 merit points. Then if you write 100 copies, your debt will be paid. Once that's done, will you be able to return to the Great Xia Civilization Academy? Of course, there's also the cost, but the cost is only about 100 merit points. Then I can finish writing 150 books. The old academy head was excited. Lu Wenyan was dumbfounded. I'm just saying. You took it seriously. He was almost exhausted by the 4 strokes, let alone 1. Besides, the words of will weren't that simple. First of all, as a civilization master, he had to have an extremely deep foundation in the Thunder Origin Saber. As a civilization master, he actually did not have much time to learn these things. In addition, willpower consumption was too great, and it was also difficult to recover. It was much harder than Origin Chi. 300 merit points. It was fine to write an article every few months. If you asked him to write every day, he wouldn't be able to write it even if you beat him to death. Lu Wenyan could still write 3 or 4 chapters a year, such as the Origin Opening Art, but if he wrote 3 or 4 chapters of the Thunder Origin Saber every year, Lu Wenyan would not be able to take it. Then he would not have the time to cultivate and do other things. Old Wang. Lu Wenyan cursed in his heart, but he had a mysterious smile on his face. He said in a low voice, "Don't spout nonsense. There are rules in the profession of a civilization master. Many things can't be spread to outsiders. In case the spies of the All Races sect get their hands on them. It's not that the All Races sect doesn't have mystic rank martial techniques like the Thunder Origin Saber, but other than their own civilization masters who will write the words of will for them, the words of the civilization masters of the various prefectures are strictly prohibited from being spread to the outside world. Even if it gets out, it won't be the kind that's written on the spot. It'll be the kind that's been stored for so long that it's almost mortal. That kind of words of will isn't really useful and won't be valuable." Lu Wenyan smiled and whispered, "Don't mention these things again. Be careful not to let the higher-ups find out and cause you trouble." The old academy head was stunned for a moment and said regretfully, "I see. I don't think it's possible either. If it's really so easy to earn merit points, then the civilization master wouldn't be short of merit points. Bai Feng wouldn't have needed to come here to kill a cultivator at the 4th level of Soaring Realm." Just now, Lu Wenyan said that writing until the end was very simple. That was why he suddenly had such an idea. Now that he heard that there were still restrictions on relationships, he felt that he understood. Lu Wenyan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. There were naturally restrictions, but it did not matter if he traded it normally to those rich people. However, he could not do it. Let's not talk about him. You want a Cloud Realm or even a Mountain Sea Realm expert to write 100 chapters a year. Those guys couldn't do it either. Even if they could do it, they wouldn't do it. They also needed to cultivate and do other things. If their willpower was exhausted and they didn't have the willpower to nurture the divine runes, who would be responsible if anything happened? Lu Wenyan simply ignored the old academy head and turned to look at Suyu. At this moment, Suyu was still struggling. His attention was no longer on the knife, but on the divine runes he'd captured. Lu Wenyan's eyes were filled with anticipation and a headache. His willpower is too weak. It's already very difficult to nurture one divine rune. Now that he has captured the second one. Sigh, if this continues, his willpower will grow much slower. Lu Wenyan was happy but also a little worried. It really wasn't good to have too many divine runes. Of course, one without was even worse. But if there were too many, how could Suyu nurture them? His willpower was limited. If he didn't nurture the divine runes, they would dissipate. However, if he were to nurture it, it would consume too much energy and he would not be able to recover. If this continued, it would easily wear him down. He's at about 19% now, almost 20%. He's nurturing 2 divine runes. That blood divine rune can also suck blood to nurture himself. This way, nurturing 2 divine runes can last. I definitely can't nurture a 3rd one. At least, I can't outline divine runes before I recuperate. Lu Wenyan was a little vexed. Sometimes, it was troublesome to encounter geniuses. If Suyu captured divine runes so quickly, it was very easy for him to become overly talented and torture himself to death. If he nurtured too many divine runes and couldn't improve for decades, he would be considered useless. Everyone else, go back first. Lu Wenyan said solemnly, the Thunder Origin Saber can't be taught to outsiders. Even if it's an ordinary copy of a mystic rank martial technique, it can't be taught to outsiders. Even in the Great Xia Civilization Academy and the War Academy, a copy of such a martial technique requires 100 merit points to exchange. The old academy head was only concerned about the value of the words of will and neglected the fact that this was a mystic rank martial technique. Chapter 100, I can't hold on any longer. 2. Chapter 100, I can't hold on any longer. 2. At this moment, the old academy head woke up in shock. Hearing this, he hurriedly said, that's right, this can't be spread out. Almost all the martial techniques in the War Academy are rubbings. The words of will is the exception. If mystic rank martial techniques are spread out, it will be very troublesome if they are discovered. Just because there were no words of will did not mean that cultivation was impossible. However, the speed would be much slower. You would have to rely on yourself to comprehend it. The effect of the text of will was equivalent to a top-notch expert analyzing the entire process for you. It would allow you to comprehend it more deeply and cultivate faster. The old academy head finally remembered this and looked at Lu Wenyan worriedly. This old thing had only talked about the words of will previously, causing him to forget. This rubbing was also very important. This was not a martial technique from the academy. Lu Wenyan had brought it himself. Nothing will happen if he spreads it, will it? Lu Wenyan was not as worried as him. Seeing that the students were nervous and no longer serious, he smiled and said, you can cultivate on your own. This is what I pass down to you. However, outsiders, including family, can't pass it down anymore. The human race doesn't encourage free labor. Everything needs to pay a relative price. Free labor is like a worm. Take this Thunder Origin Saber as my graduation gift to you. Even if you don't learn it today, it doesn't matter. You still have a long time. Thank you, Teacher Lu. The students hurriedly thanked him. Even though they did not see the words of will, some of them did, but they did not gain much. However, they had seen the rubbing. It's fine. Everyone, go back and rest well. It doesn't matter if you don't see it. This is the first time. Next time, with experience, everyone will gain something. The Great Xia Civilization Academy doesn't lack civilized teachers who know how to transcribe the words of will, as long as you're willing to work hard. Thank you, teacher. Everyone thanked him again and left expectantly. Many people turned around and looked at Suyu, who was still trembling. They were a little curious. How many strokes had Suyu seen? As for Suyu learning more, they were not surprised. Lu Wenyan had been bringing Suyu around these few days and had obviously given him special treatment. It was useless to be envious or jealous. Half an hour later, Suyu woke up. At this moment, only Lu Wenyan and him were in the office. Suyu was slightly shocked and hurriedly said, Teacher, I didn't finish reading it just now. He was a little annoyed. He had been so focused on hitting his underling that he had forgotten to look at the saber technique behind. He wasn't stupid. Naturally, he knew that transcribing the words of will was no simple task. He'd wasted this opportunity. Lu Wenyan did not care. He smiled faintly and said, How many strokes did you see? Until the third one. I haven't had time to look at the fourth. Suyu looked vexed and regretful. Phew. Lu Wenyan exhaled slightly. This was a good thing. 3 strokes were enough. If he really saw the back, this fellow would probably be stunned. Why were there no despicable people in the back? It doesn't matter. You won't be able to learn it even if you see it now either. Take this thing back. Don't reveal it to anyone. Hide it carefully. You can take a look at it when you have time. Of course, the effect will definitely be greatly reduced later on. After all, I'm only a will in the sky, not a mountain. I can't keep it for a long time. He had set up an ambush ahead of time. That would have been very ineffective towards the end. That's your responsibility, not mine. As a teacher, I've tried my best to provide you with the best. Lu Wenyan quickly changed the topic. You outlined the divine rune again? Yes. Thunder. How much of the character was outlined? It seems to be all of them. No, almost. Suyu felt a little awkward and said in a low voice, I think I missed a stroke. Amen. Lu Wenyan was a little surprised. On the one hand, he was surprised that he had outlined the entire character, again. Okay, he gave up exploring why he used the word. He said quickly, a stroke. Well, it fought back violently when I was capturing it. That's because your willpower isn't strong enough to forcibly capture it and outline it. That's when you should give up or outline it. You can't forcibly capture it again. Do you understand? Lu Wenyan's expression was serious. You were lucky once or twice. The next time you do this, you'll easily suffer a backlash. Of course, this is also my responsibility. I didn't expect you to outline the divine rune a second time, so I forgot to remind you. And don't outline a third divine rune until you reach the nurturing stage. Yes. Suyu immediately responded and continued, Teacher, the word thunder has been broken. I think it will take at least 10 days to half a month to recover. Normal things. It's not unusual to spend half a year or a year sketching a complete divine rune. This time, Lu Wenyan did not discourage him. He said seriously, you outlined the divine rune too quickly. It's actually not very normal. I don't know if it's a bad thing, but having too many divine runes might not be good. Last time I told you, if there are too many divine runes, it might be mixed but not refined. I understand, teacher. Suyu hurriedly nodded. As for the characteristics of the thunder divine rune, there was no way to test it this time. It was not complete, so he would only know after it was restored. Of course, Suyu could determine one characteristic, electrocute you to death. This thing had just electrocuted him many times. Otherwise, he wouldn't have ended up pulling its leg so hard that it hurt. He hadn't been able to control it. Lu Wenyan was relieved that he had listened. After some thought, he said slowly, at this point, I've taught you almost everything I can. As for some basics, someone will naturally teach you when you reach the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Chapter 101, Couldn't Hold It In Any Longer. 3. Chapter 101, Couldn't Hold It In Any Longer. This includes some profound cultivation technique manuals, the use of divine runes, the outline of divine runes, as well as the study of the myriad clan language. These things are very common. You can spend a few years in the academy to slowly learn them. This is also the accumulation of your foundation. As Lu Wenyan spoke, he became serious once more. In the early stages, don't care too much about anything. The foundation is the most important. We civilized masters can endure loneliness. The people of Zhanjiang College, after entering the college for half a year or a year, have a chance to step into the great precipice. But most civilized teachers only step into the sky after many years. Suyu hurriedly nodded and said softly, Teacher, I think I can reach Tianjun in a few months. Lu Wenyan was stunned for a moment. Damn it, he had forgotten about this kid who was at 8th level of Kaiyuan realm. As a reserve member of the civilized college, the intermediate college had to start from scratch to learn many language courses in 5 years. Was 5 years a lot? Apart from language courses, they also had many other courses. Mathematics, basic weapon construction, geography, history. Comparatively speaking, there were quite a few courses. At this time, it would be considered hard work if they could go back at night and practice the origin opening technique once. How many of them could cultivate to the 4th or 5th level of origin opening? Unlike Chen Hao and the others, they didn't need to learn too much of the myriad clan language. 3 basic courses were enough. Even so, these people were complaining incessantly. They wished that they did not learn a single language. Su Yu's performance in the Tao of Divine Inscriptions was too amazing. In that instant just now, Lu Wenyan had completely forgotten that this fellow was at 8th level of Kaiyuan realm. The reason why he had written Thunder Origin Blade for him was to increase his combat strength. As for capturing divine inscriptions, that was secondary. The words that were stuck in Lu Wenyan's mouth could not be said. He originally wanted to say, "Don't be envious of those fellows from Zhangjin College. A year later, many of them will reach the Thousand June realm, but you have to be able to endure the loneliness. After a few years, when you soar into the sky, they will still reach the Thousand June realm." But at this moment, there was nothing he could say. This brat was at 8th level of the Origin Awakening realm. He coughed lightly to cover up the awkwardness. Lu Wenyan said calmly, "It's not bad that you are at 8th level of the Origin Awakening realm, but so what if you are at the Thousand June realm? The Thousand June realm is the least valuable. When you reach the college, some of your senior brothers and sisters might be at the soaring realm." Su Yu immediately said, "Teacher, I have a question." "Ask." "I've looked through the literature before, but it doesn't say how many years the civilized academy will be in. It seems like all the information doesn't mention this." Su Yu was curious. He was really curious. How many years would the civilized academy need to study? How many years? Lu Wenyan was slightly stunned. After a while, he couldn't help but laugh. "I forgot to mention that the civilized academy doesn't have a number of years. The students who are under 20% of their full potential are not allowed to observe the Qianjun realm as an elementary class. Between 20% and 50%, you can observe the original students of Qianjun as an intermediate class. Above 50%, which is the recuperation stage. At this time, they are all in the advanced class. Soaring. Then you will be considered to have graduated. Of course, not everyone can graduate. Many people study for a few years and have no progress. They may leave the university, go home, go to the battlefield, or do something else. At this time, the university won't care about you. If you take flight, you can choose to stay in the academy. For example, Bai Feng chose to stay in the academy and become an assistant researcher, but this is the treatment of a genius. If you take flight at the age of 50 or 60, the academy usually won't keep you. You can find your own way out. In any case, you won't have a bad life. Under normal circumstances, when you reach the age of 30, if you still can't take flight, many people will choose to leave." Lu Wenyan sighed. 30 years old. It's still not too late to become a fighter at this time, but after 30 years old, it's really too late. The golden time for cultivation has already passed. For someone like you, entering the residence at the age of 18 and staying there for more than 10 years, when you still have no way to fly, you will also give up. How many people were gifted and ambitious when they entered the school? In the end, after wasting more than 10 years, they were unable to materialize and thus gave up on the path of materialization. This was too common in the civilized academy. There may be some old people in their 50s or 60s in the academy who aren't teachers. They can be considered your seniors. Some of your basic courses may have been taught by them to earn some merit points to support themselves. It wouldn't be difficult for them to support their families. They don't even count as assistant researchers. Of course, you don't have to call them seniors. Just call them coach. Calling them seniors, that's piercing. Be careful not to meet stingy people and make them wear small shoes for you. Lu Wenyan laughed as he spoke, but there was also some bitterness in his voice. Your teacher, I. If I had stayed in the Civilization Academy back then, would have been a coach. If I had truly been a coach, you could call me senior. I'm an old man in my 70s, and I can be considered of the same seniority as you. No one except themselves could understand the bitterness of this. Not many people who entered the Institute of Civilization were idiots. Yet, they had wasted decades in this place. One could imagine what these people were going through. Su Yu was still young. He didn't understand, but even after listening to Lu Wenyan, he couldn't help but shudder in his heart. Wasting his time until he was old and accomplished nothing, a group of 10-year-old children calling him senior. I won't. Su Yu thought to himself. He wouldn't, and he didn't want to either. It turned out that not only were there geniuses in the school of civilization, there was also such a tragic group of people. As expected, while some people were bright, there were bound to be some who were dim. Go back and rest for a few days. Study the lightning origin saber properly, cultivate the divine inscriptions, and wait for the examination. Teacher, then kill 1,000 June intermediate stage. There's no need to do it. There's no time. Su Yu pondered for a moment before insisting, Teacher, why don't I give it a try? In a few days, when my Thunder Origin blade has made progress, I'll give it another try. If it doesn't work, I'll give up. Up to you. Lu Wenyan didn't try to dissuade him. Persistence was also a kind of moral character, and it was pretty good. He threw the beast skin book, Thunder Blade, to Su Yu, and Lu Wenyan leisurely walked out of the office with his hands behind his back. Before he could leave, he heard Su Yu say, Teacher, I'll come back to the academy tomorrow morning to learn from you. I'll go back in the afternoon to practice my blade techniques again. Lu Wenyan almost tripped and fell. I told you to go home and rest for a few more days to properly study your blade techniques. Do you think that I'm forgiving you? Stupid brat. Teacher, I've exhausted too much willpower. In the next few days, I'll have to hide at home to recover. I don't want to come to the academy every day with a pale face and an overindulgent look. Don't you understand my deep meaning? Lu Wenyan's back was facing Su Yu. His face was dark, but his tone was calm. There's no need to come. I have some things to do these few days. Let's see if my physical body can build a foundation and step into the sky. I'm a little busy recently. Su Yu instantly came to his senses and hurriedly said, All right, teacher. I won't bother you anymore. Okay. Lu Wenyan was unfathomable. He left gracefully. If he stayed any longer, he wouldn't be able to hold himself back. Chapter 102, Time of Change 1. Chapter 102, Time of Change 1. Ha! A soft shout accompanied by the sound of a blade rang out in the cultivation room. Ever since he had dismantled the wardrobe last time, Su Yu did not dare to cultivate the more powerful Thunder Essence blade at home this time. He was worried that he would tear down the house and split open the floor. The system downstairs would use his fist the size of a casserole to beat him up. The uniform military blade was extremely fast. It cut through the air and produced a whistling sound. Su Yu panted slightly, sheathed his saber, and frowned. Difficult. Black-grade martial techniques were still too early for him. It was too difficult. Even the first saber move, Lightning Strike. Under normal circumstances, it would be a combination of 9 orifices, and a slash of Guiyuan. I have learned the stance. The key is Yuan Qi. Su Yu concluded that he had learned the stance of Lightning Strike. It was not difficult to begin with. The key was to connect his acupoints and release his Yuan Qi. With the binding force united, he would attach his Yuan Qi to the saber and strike with lightning to kill the enemy. After all, he had only opened 8 acupoints. The only thing he could use was the Yuan Qi in his body and not the Yuan Qi in the outside world. I still can't quickly merge my Yuan Qi into one and infuse it all into the saber. Su Yu frowned. It had been 3 days. He had been cultivating this saber move for 3 days. It was not considered too long, but in these 3 days, even if he watched the Thunder Essence Saber a few times a day, he still could not grasp the method of condensing Yuan Qi into one. This meant that he had not entered the rudiments. At the rudiments, he could at least infuse Yuan Qi into the saber. What was left was proficiency and speed. He could instantly complete the infusing of Yuan Qi. In these 3 days, he had not even completed the rudiments, let alone how to speed up and how to instantly complete the infusing of Yuan Qi. Does it have to be at the 9th level of the Yuan opening realm? Su Yu sighed. He wanted to cultivate to the 9th level of the Yuan opening realm first. The crux was that he had also used his blood essence to cultivate once in the past 3 days. He realized that the effects were no longer as good as before. The speed at which the last aperture was opened was very slow. At this rate, it would probably take at least a month. The last time he was at the 8th level of the Yuan opening realm, he had spent 20 days. A month at the 9th level of the Yuan opening realm was already considered not bad. Furthermore, he needed to spend quite a lot of blood essence. Now that Su Yu only had 2 drops of the Iron-Winged Bird's blood essence left, he still needed to keep 1 drop to be on the safe side. 8 orifices linkage. How can I control the Yuan Qi to enter the place I want to inject it into? Yuan Qi was somewhat disobedient. It was not something that could be moved wherever one wanted. Su Yu did not continue cultivating his saber technique. He sat down by the side, drank a cup of water, and began to think. The Iron-Winged Bird race skill that the Atlas has activated, tearing apart that attack, is to gather Yuan Qi on the palm. The palm is extremely sharp, tearing apart all of the enemy's defenses. But that is the Atlas operating on behalf of me, and not under my own control. Now, to inject Yuan Qi into the saber body, the logic is the same. The Atlas uses blood essence energy, not external Yuan Qi. This is also similar to the theory behind my own Yuan Qi reserves. Su Yu felt his heart ache. He roughly knew how to quickly enter the lightning essence blade. He continued to use his blood essence to activate the tearing skill and observe how Yuan Qi gathered and circulated. He knew his own body the best. No matter how clearly Lu Wenyan's article of Will displayed it, it was not as intuitive as trying it himself. I have to spend money again. 30,000 for a drop of blood. Was it worth it to try and observe once? For many people, it was definitely worth it. To Su Yu, he actually did not mind spending money. He was not stingy, but he really did not have much money at the moment. Forget it, use 1 drop. When the time comes, if I can ambush a Qianjun and earn back the merit points, I can also take the opportunity to master the Thunder Origin Blade. In general, it is still a profit. Ever since he activated his martial technique at the academy, Su Yu had never used this thing again. Last time, he was at 4th level of Origin Opening, and now, he was at 8th level of Origin Opening. Su Yu no longer hesitated and quickly took out a bottle from his pocket. He always carried the essence blood with him to prevent any unforeseen circumstances. After making a decision, Su Yu no longer hesitated. A drop of essence blood was quickly swallowed by him. This time, he did not activate the origin absorbing technique, but activated the tearing skill instead. This time, Su Yu's goal was much clearer than the last time. At this moment, he felt it much more intuitively. A power appeared out of thin air in his body. This was the power of the blood essence conversion. It was similar to Yuan Qi, but it was closer to the power of human nature. This power also revolved around his acupuncture points and rapidly began to condense. Su Yu's right hand quickly swelled up. Su Yu did not explode. Instead, he had been silently experiencing that feeling. He could endure the pain of his arm swelling up. He was experiencing the feeling of Yuan Qi returning to one. He was feeling the profoundness of Yuan Qi circulation. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Su Yu did not explode for a long time. At this moment, his right hand was already visibly swelling up. His physical body was not strong enough. This was the explosive power of the Qianjun seventh weight. The power condensed from his blood essence was powerful, and he vaguely felt like his arm was bursting. Suyu had been observing, using himself as an experiment, and using himself as a research subject. This was what many civilized masters were doing. If Lu Wenyan and Bai Feng saw this scene and saw Su Yu's unchanging expression as he allowed his arm to swell to the extreme, they would probably curse and praise him at the same time. Su Yu's thirst for knowledge already had the mentality of a civilized master. Seeking. There were too many unknowns in the myriad worlds. Countless dazzling civilizations gathered. Although the human race was strong, they could not dominate the heavens. Only by searching from top to bottom, sparing no effort to explore and pursue, could the human race rise faster. Countless civilized masters were pioneers, trying out new cultivation methods, improving the cultivation methods of the myriad races, swallowing different heavenly materials and earthly treasures, forcefully modifying their bodies to cater to the cultivation methods and secret manuals of different races, generations of civilized masters. Many people died in the research room. Chapter 103, Time of Change 2. Chapter 103, Time of Change 2. However, their achievements were extraordinary. After the peaceful calendar of the human race, they rose rapidly and became powerful. This had a lot to do with civilized masters. The Quest realm was the holy land of civilized masters. It was called the Quest, and what it explored was an unknown. Today, Suyu did not know about the existence of this place. He did not think too much about it. He just wanted to understand how Lei Yuan Dao had entered the rudiments. However, for an 8th level origin opening realm warrior to use a martial technique that far exceeded his energy load just to observe the secrets of the circulation of Yuan Qi, this was the heart of seeking. Of course, there were also ignorant people who were fearless and reckless. 5 minutes later, the energy dissipated. At this moment, Su Yu's right hand could no longer be seen. It had swollen into a pig's trotter. Su Yu gritted his teeth. The pain was certain, but the pain could not hide his joy. He felt as if he had grasped some clues. I was careless. The unity of vitality not only requires the coordination of the acupuncture points, it also requires the coordination of the body itself, including the meridians, muscles, and so on. I have always treated the acupuncture points as the foundation. Actually, it is an error. The foundation of the acupuncture points is still to serve the body's strength. The acupuncture points are the engine, but they are not the only one. At this moment, Suyu had a deep understanding. The acupuncture point was something that absorbed Yuan Qi. This was the engine of a car. Yuan Qi was oil, but the body was the car itself, the wheel, and the steering wheel. He only knew how to burn oil, but he did not know how to control the direction. This had nothing to do with the acupuncture point, but mainly because his body was not well coordinated. It's my fault for not being a good driver. Actually, all the hardware exists. The reason why I can't gather Yuan Qi to inject it into the blade is because I, as a driver, don't know how to drive. Su Yu understood. He felt so satisfied that he forgot the pain in his right hand. The teachers had actually said these words before. However, he had never experienced it before. Words on paper were just empty words. The swimming pool needed a few hours to fill up with water. If you didn't try it yourself, even if you counted it 100 times, there wouldn't be a single time when you tried it yourself. At the moment, if you had a swimming pool and were not afraid of getting beaten up, you could try it yourself. These messy thoughts flashed past his mind. Su Yu could not wait to try Lei Yuan Dao again, but only then did he feel the pain on his arm. I can't do it today. I will try again tomorrow. Anyway, I have already mastered the introductory method. What's next is just practice. Su Yu was delighted. He was not only delighted that he had grasped the method, but that he had developed another function of the atlas. From a simple point of view, the atlas could only absorb yuan qi to erupt with martial techniques. However, he had developed the ability to erupt with martial techniques. It was the secret to the circulation of yuan qi. It even included the secrets of the orifices that the Iron-Wing Bird clan might use when they erupted with their skills. This is the Iron-Wing Bird. The difference between the human body and the Iron-Wing Bird is too great, so it's not too obvious. What if it's a fiend god cultivation technique? Then wouldn't I be able to see more things? Suyu went home to read, waiting for the next day's practice. At this moment, it was already June 8th. There were still 17 days before the higher education institution's assessment. At the same time, Great Xia's Institute of Civilization. In a huge hall, Wan Tianxing had gathered the higher-ups of the academy for a meeting. At this moment, Wan Tianxing said slowly, Lord Xia is in closed-door cultivation. Lord Xia is temporarily acting as the Lord of the Academy. Everyone should know what happened during the ceremony this morning. I suggest Lord Xia withdraw his troops. On the battlefield of the heavens, the Dragon Martial Guards will immediately withdraw back to the Great Xia Manor. Just as he said this, an old man stood up and scolded, Wan Tianxing, you and Lord Xia are in cahoots. The Great Xia Manor has fought in the heavens for many years, but there has never been a matter of withdrawing troops at the last minute. You are traitors of the human race, traitors of the Great Xia Manor. You shall be executed according to the law. Myriad Sage was not angry. He calmly said, if we follow your words, the Great Zhou Manor and the Great Ming Manor are traitors. If they forget to fight, they will be in danger, and if they are belligerent, they will die. How can they be mixed together? The old man berated angrily, belligerent. If the human race does not fight, the human realm will be the next battlefield of the heavens. If the Great Xia Manor does not fight, the Great Zhou Manor does not fight, and if all the manors stop fighting, then where will the human realm be? Myriad Heavenly Saint, you are a sinner. Myriad Heavenly Saint swept his gaze downwards, and many people revealed resentful expressions. During the grand ceremony, he had suggested retreating, allowing the Heavenly Celestial race to use resources to buy their lives. This had already caused many people to be dissatisfied with him. Myriad Heavenly Saint sighed in his heart, but he was already used to it. If one was warmongering, one would definitely die. Many people were saying this, but there were only a few who truly understood it. Was the Great Xia Manor strong? It was very strong. However, the Great Xia Manor had been fighting for many years, and their income could not make ends meet. Every time they fought, they gained very little, so it was impossible for them to use war to support themselves. The Great Xia Manor wanted to raise the Dragon Martial Guards, the Demon Suppression Army, the Great Xia Manor's army, and countless pensions. Everyone in the Great Xia Manor was proud of dying in battle. But dying in battle. What they lost was their lives, and what the Great Xia Manor lost was their money. There were too many of them. Over the years, nearly 1 million people had died in battle. This was only the Great Xia Mansion, and Xia Longwu was someone who cherished his soldiers. The compensation for those who died in battle was extremely heavy. Not only were each of them worth hundreds of thousands of peace coins, but there were also other kinds of benefits. In this way, everyone in the Great Xia Mansion was fearless of death. Many old men even fought for a way out for their descendants. They were incomparably fierce on the battlefield and did not fear death at all. However, did these people understand that the Great Xia Mansion was already using the foundation left behind by the Great Xia dynasty? Xia Longwu had been in office for so many years, and he had already used up all of his previous assets. Many thoughts flashed through Wan Tianxing's mind, and he quickly regained his calm. Sinner. Whether I, Wan Tianxing, am guilty or not, none of you have the right to convict me. Moreover, I am only suggesting that this is an order from Lord Xia. Chapter 104, Time of Change 3. Chapter 104, Time of Change, Lord Xia Ho. The old man's expression changed, and he continued to curse, "He's a pig. Other than making money, what else can he do?" Cough cough cough. One Tianxing interrupted, "Elder Yun, when you speak, don't point at the mulberry tree and curse the locust tree." "I didn't point at the mulberry tree and curse the locust tree, I scolded him directly." The old man said angrily, "Even if he was in front of me, I would still point at his nose and curse." The Xia Trading Company monopolized the cultivation resources of the entire Great Xia Manor. Isn't that enough to make money? He, Pig Xia, still wants to continue to fish. When he reaches the heavenly battlefield, it's time to kill him and sacrifice him to the heavens. The originally solemn meeting suddenly changed. Below, a young man said, "Manor head, Lord Xiaoho is in charge of the Great Xia Manor. He won't exploit our salary and bonuses, right? Manor head, why don't you suggest to Lord Xiaoho that the items of the Xia Clan Trading Company shouldn't be so expensive? The Great Ming Manor is much cheaper than us." Manor head, how long will Lord Xiaoho be acting as manor head for? A few years ago, when Manor Head went to the heavenly battlefield, Lord Xiaoho was also acting as Manor Head for the time being. In the end, even the academy has to charge for a latrine. This is too much. Everyone's attention had already turned to Lord Xiaoho. One Tianxing secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This was a good thing. Lord Xiaoho was naturally used to take the blame. Of course, Lord Xiaoho wasn't as unsightly as these people described him to be. On the side of the Great Xia Manor, one's income couldn't make ends meet. Xia Longwu didn't care and was only responsible for cultivation and war. Without Lord Xiaoho to earn money, the manor treasury would have been empty 5 years ago. In one Tianxing's opinion, Lord Xiaoho was more suitable to be the manor head than Xia Longwu. Lord Xiaoho was the main reason why the Great Xia Manor was able to stand tall. Of course, outsiders naturally could not understand these matters. They only knew that Lord Xiaoho was a scammer. If not for his father being the king of the Great Xia, he would have been beaten to death in a small alley. Ignoring these people, one Tianxing said a few perfunctory words and quickly said, "Since Lord Xiaoho is acting as the manor head, then this year is not going to be easy for everyone. Lord Xiaoho and I talked before. The treasury is out of money and we need to cut costs. Therefore, this year's enrollment will be 500 fewer students. In addition, the interior of the academy needs to be stripped of some institutions. There is another crucial point. Those over 50 years old who do not have their will manifested and are no longer teaching in the academy will no longer be entitled to the academy's allowance from now on." The last sentence was said, and it instantly blew up the entire venue. No. How can this be? Head Prefect, you are betraying the entire academy. An old man roared, "The Great Xia Civilization Academy has a total of 20,000 students who are over 50 years old and do not have their will manifested. There are only around 500 people who serve as instructors. The remaining 20,000 people have their allowances removed. How are they going to live?" One Tianxing's eyes revealed a cold expression. It was extremely bloated. In the past 50 years, the Great Xia Civilization Academy's strength had greatly improved. There were as many experts as the clouds. However, one had to admit that internal problems had also started to appear. There were many problems. A group of old students who had yet to materialize were already dragging down the academy. He knew that this plan would be opposed. Tens of thousands of people would receive a yearly allowance of more than 100,000. Just the allowance alone would cost billions. Of course, these old students were closely related to the academy. Some of their descendants were in the academy, and some of their classmates and teachers were in the academy. Once the allowance was removed, it would definitely cause a huge earthquake. However, it was necessary to cut costs. He could not tolerate it anymore. When Xia Longwu was around, his plan could not be passed. It was because Xia Longwu felt that these people had also paid a lot for the great Xia manor. He could not let the hearts of the people be chilled. However, if he did not let the hearts of the people be chilled, something would happen sooner or later. This was already the case for the Great Xia Civilization Academy. Just the expenses of the entire Great Xia mansion alone was an astronomical figure. No matter how much money Lord Xia could earn, he would not be able to fill the gap. They would definitely experience pain. Even if they did not understand it today, in the future, he hoped that they would be able to understand it. They were all stakeholders. The 10,000 heavenly saints did not waver because of their words. Although his voice was calm, it suppressed everyone. He said indifferently, "This is the decree of the Great Xia Mansion. If everyone is dissatisfied, go and argue with Lord Xia. Other than that, the research funding will be cut by 30%. Some useless research can be directly given up. The audit institution must shoulder the responsibility and not put all their research on the stage. They will spend a lot of money and have no results. What fire dolphin research? How many years has it been researched? The cannon fodder race in the heavenly battlefield has killed at least 1 million of them. What is there to study?" Wan Tianxing rebuked angrily, "Nonsense. Can't you do something else with this energy? Also, if you want to do research, then focus on it. Don't think about that nonsense." After saying that, Wan Tianxing didn't wait for the crowd to refute and threw down another bomb. "I've thought about it and discussed with Lord Xia Ho that the Myriad Clan Training Academy will be opened again." Once these words were said, it completely covered all the news. At this moment, even the few experts who had not spoken all this while. Someone said coldly, "Myriad Race Training Academy?" Head Prefect, this plan was rejected many years ago. Back then, the head prefect personally went to the heavenly battlefield and destroyed several races. Now, he wants to open it again. Does he really think that the head prefect won't come out of seclusion? Myriad Heaven Saint said calmly, "Everyone, if we don't accept the myriad races, does that mean that the myriad race religion doesn't have any spies in the academy? That's different." Someone coldly shouted, "The 10,000 races religion is the 10,000 races religion. After all, it's not the 10,000 races themselves. What's the point of accepting the 10,000 races? We accept money." Chapter 105, Time of Change 4. Chapter 105, Time of Change 4. Myriad Heaven Saint said straightforwardly, "Instead of letting them send spies from the religion of 10,000 races, we might as well directly take them in. Firstly, there are people watching them right under our noses. Secondly, we can charge a high entrance fee. Thirdly, not just money, but also a large amount of resources, including some top-secret cultivation techniques. If they wanted to enter the Great Xia Civilization Academy, they would have to pay a huge price. In this way, their support for the myriad races would be reduced, and their resources would be reduced, and these resources would fall into our hands. Fourth, we have to show our sincerity. As long as we are not firm enemies, we can form an alliance. The human race is one of the top 10 strongest races among the myriad races in the universe. Not everyone can take a bite out of it. Cooperation might be more advantageous than hostility." Wan Tianxing said, then, he said, "Not only us, but the celestial race and the demon race also have such measures. They are also bribing those small races. They are even opening some unimportant secret realms and holy lands to the small races. They are nurturing the small races, strengthening them, and making them the vanguard of the war against the human race. In the army of gods and demons, there are even experts of the small races. In every war, the human race must die, and the people of the god and demon race may die from the small races. Their own strength is not damaged at all. Since the 10,000 clans can plant spies in the human race and nurture the 10,000 clans, we actually have a chance. For example, these 10,000 clan students who have enrolled, bribed, brainwashed, bribed, and bribed. There's always a way to bribe them. In a few years, these people might be able to become the vanguard of our human race's counterattack. 10,000 heavenly saints said in a deep voice, I admit that there are disadvantages, and there are many of them. However, everyone can think about it. Is the disadvantage greater than the advantage, or is the advantage greater than the disadvantage? As long as you manage it properly, it's actually better than before. At the very least, you don't have to worry anymore. The people around you are members of the Myriad clan. If the members of the Myriad clan come in person, the number of members of the Myriad clan will be greatly reduced. This way, things won't be the same as before. A large amount of resources will be spent, and in the end, the Myriad clan will be able to nurture experts. The 10,000 heavenly saints had been in charge of the academy for so many years, and there were still many supporters. Everyone began to discuss this matter. In a corner, Bai Feng yawned, feeling a little bored. This matter had nothing to do with him, and it wasn't his place to express his opinion. A small assistant researcher couldn't say anything here. Just as he was feeling bored, Lu Hong chuckled and said, Bai Feng, the number of students this year has been reduced. Your reserve student won't be eliminated, right? Also, your martial uncle seems to be in the midst of cutting the allowance. Bai Feng looked at him as if he was looking at a fool. My uncle master has materialized. Don't you know? I'm sorry, he's not in the midst of reducing the allowance. Materialized? Lu Hong really didn't know. In the eyes of the Institute of Civilization, this matter wasn't a big deal. Materializing was just a step up. Lu Hong didn't continue talking about this. He smiled and said, the research funding has been reduced, and the institute is on the verge of reform. I'm afraid that the assessment for the rest of us will be even stricter. What do you want to say? Just say it. I'm too lazy to guess. It's too tiring. Lu Hong took a deep breath. Elder Hong's Research Institute is open to me. I'll inject funds into it, and we can research together. I can even provide some resources that you don't have, and we can share the results together. Bai Feng, if you and I continue to fight, the final result will only be mutual destruction. Lu Hong said seriously, Elder Hong's Research Institute hasn't reported any results for many years. If this continues, as long as someone pushes for it, it will be banned. Scram. Bai Feng was not polite at all. He cursed and thought for a while, actually, it's not impossible. Lu Hong was overjoyed. Send me a few mountain and sea realm god corpses first, we can discuss it in detail. Bai Feng said seriously, really, since you want to join, it's necessary to give some blood. After all, we've researched for so many years, and we're about to have results. Lu Hong cursed silently. Do you think I'm an idiot? Bai Feng sneered. If you're not, then who is? Bai Feng ignored him and glanced at the 10,000 heavenly saints above him. He thought to himself that the academy might have been in turmoil recently. He didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing. The manor head was in closed-door cultivation, and Lord Xiaohe was temporarily acting as the manor head. Why did it feel like this was a sign of great change? There won't be any trouble, right? Bai Feng sighed in his heart, hoping that things would go smoothly. As for that kid Su Yu, he didn't know how his recent cultivation was going. Chapter 106, Lord Xiaohe's Pot 1. Chapter 106, Lord Xiaohe's Pot 1. June 10th. Early in the morning, Chen Hao rushed over. When Su Yu opened the door, he hurriedly said, You, something has happened. Take your time. Su Yu was calm and unhurried. The sky could not fall. With just Chen Hao, what could possibly happen? In the past 2 days, he had mastered the Thunder Essence Blade. Su Yu was busy familiarizing himself with the Thunder Essence Blade and increasing the speed of his primordial qi returning to 1. He was not in the mood to pay attention to Chen Hao's big news at all. He opened the door and let Chen Hao in. Su Yu turned around to eat the noodles he had just cooked in the morning. His father was not at home. He had been eating very poorly recently. Moreover, he did not have much money on hand. He still had to keep 30,000 yuan to go to Civilization University. Going to school was not free. Although the registration fee for Civilization University was not expensive, it had to be 10,000 yuan in one go. In addition, he still had to eat when he arrived at the university. Chen Hao swallowed his saliva when he saw him eating noodles. He had eaten a little in the morning and was a little hungry after running for a while. Su Yu pretended not to see it. There was only one bowl of noodles, and it was not for him. Ah you. Chen Hao sat down opposite him and did not look at the noodles again. He hurriedly said, "My dad said that there are some changes in the Great Xia Manor this year, and the enrollment numbers of the various universities might decrease." Yes. Decrease the enrollment numbers. Chen Hao emphasized once more. Su Yu raised his head helplessly. Does it have anything to do with me? As for you, although you're still at 4th level of Kaiyuan right now, you're about to reach 5th level soon. In addition, you'll get 30 points. Even if the enrollment numbers decrease, it wouldn't have much to do with you, right? Su Yu really did not care too much. He was a little speechless as he said, could it be that Nan Yuan isn't hiring anyone? If the Great Xia Manor dares to do this, Nan Yuan would dare to break away from the control of the Great Xia Manor and directly seek refuge with the Great Ming Manor. Nan Yuan was not far from the Great Ming Mansion. It was less than 300 miles north of the Great Ming Mansion. It was considered one of the cities closest to the Great Ming Mansion. Although the place was small, Nanyuan still had 1 million people. However, there were more than 10,000 combat soldiers. With the addition of veteran soldiers, Nanyuan could recruit tens of thousands of combat soldiers at any time. No matter how the Great Xia Mansion reduced the number of people, Nanyuan would not be much less. Originally, there was not much recruitment, so Su Yu really did not care too much. He said weakly, whether this news is true or not, the ones who should be crying are the Great Xia Mansion. They recruit the most people, so reducing the number of people will also reduce them. Su Yu's expression was indifferent. Chen Hao said with a sad face, I know, my father also said so, but he said. This way, some of the people who could have been admitted into the Great Xia Mansion would not be able to get in this year. Those with some family background might have to run to the small town. Su Yu was slightly startled when he heard this. He realized that he was still thinking too little, not as much as Chen Hao's father. That's right. Reducing the number of people would definitely mainly reduce the people from the Great Xia Mansion. However, what should the people from the Great Xia Mansion who felt that they wouldn't be able to get in now do? Come to the small town. Nanyuan was one of the 28 cities after all. Although the number of students recruited was not much, there were still some places available. They might not be the most outstanding in the Great Xia Manor, but when they came to Nanyuan, the Great Xia Manor did not have high requirements for Nanyuan. For example, no matter how much the number of Nanyuan students who could enter the Great Xia Civilization Academy decreased this year, the spots would not be too bad. This was because, there was no way to reduce it further. If it decreased any further, it would cause public anger. The Nanyuan students were weak. It was not that they were really bad. The environment was different. This godforsaken place did not have enough yuan qi. Cultivation was not as fast as the Great Xia Manor, and resources were also scarce. One could not expect the Nanyuan people to be on the same level as the people from the Great Xia Manor. Therefore, the southern element quota was almost fixed. It would not be increased, and it was also very difficult to reduce it. Su Yu frowned slightly and looked at Chen Hao. Zhanjing College and Civilization College are both going to be reduced. That's right. Chen Hao said in distress, it's all because of that marquee. The manor head is in closed-door cultivation. If he was not in closed-door cultivation, he definitely would not do this. This bird marquis, he does not do proper work all day long. He only knows how to make money. Chen Hao had a depressed look on his face. He felt that he was in danger. Su Yu couldn't help but laugh. He knew who the Lord Marquis he spoke of was. Lord Xia, Xia Longwu's uncle, the son of the great Xia Emperor. In the southern Yuan, in the great Xia manor, and even in the human race, he was a well-known figure. He was the one who opened the Xia Trading Company. No one knew whether Lord Xia's real name was this or not. In any case, everyone was calling him Lord Xia now. This was his own request. His father was the great Xia Emperor, so no matter what, he could still be considered a lord. Therefore, a long, long time ago, that person had been called Master Xia Ho. How did this matter have anything to do with Master Xia Ho? Don't you know? It was him who gave the order. Chen Hao said gloomily, I heard that Master Xia Ho disliked the fact that the various universities spent too much, so this year, the great Xia Manor's funds will be cut by 30%. That's not all, Chen Hao said with a bitter face, I heard, no, it was my father who heard that Master Xia Ho was actually selling quotas. Chen Hao's face was on the verge of collapse as he said, that person is actually selling quotas. It's not an academic quota, but a household registration quota for 28 cities. When they go to other cities to take the assessment, they will get a local household registration, so if those people want to take the assessment, they will have to spend money to buy a household registration. Buying a household registration is not enough, they have to buy a house. So in total, a household registration, at least 1 million or more. Didn't you see? A lot of people have been selling houses these past few days. The house prices have gone crazy. On your side, it's 10,000 yuan per square meter now. Su Yu was stunned. There was such a move. Then, his house could be sold for 1 million yuan now. Previously, he was still planning to sell it for 500,000 yuan. Don't you think he's wicked? Now, even the great Xia mansion is scolding him. Chen Hao was still complaining, but Su Yu couldn't help but laugh out loud. Lord Xia Ho is really interesting. Originally, everyone was heading to the great Xia mansion, but with his actions, he actually drove them to a small town. Chapter 107, Lord Xia Ho's Pot 2. Chapter 107, Lord Xia Ho's Pot 2. What's so interesting? Isn't this increasing our competition? Chen Hao said unhappily, 1 or 2 million can settle down. There are so many rich people in the great Xia manor. They will all rush over here. Su Yu smiled and said, it's not that exaggerated. The truly rich and powerful people do not lack money or vitality fluids. Even in the great Xia manor, they can compete. Those who go to small cities are all middle-class people. Do you think anyone can take out 1 or 2 million? In the end, even if there are more people, there won't be too many. Su Yu could see it clearly. However, what Chen Hao said was also right. It had indeed increased the difficulty of the Southern Yuan student assessment. The middle-class students in the Great Xia Manor might be at 5th or 6th level of Kaiyuan. However, once they reached Southern Yuan, they would be excellent students. Those from wealthy families would most likely come. With that, the difficulty of the assessment would be much higher. Of course, the Southern Yuan would definitely make money this time. For example, those who sold their houses now could easily earn a few 100,000. Su Yu could only say that Lord Xia Ho's operation was unparalleled. If I were Lord Xia Ho, at this time, I would build a few residential areas in advance. Moreover, the rules say that I can only buy houses in those residential areas. I can easily sell a few 100 to 1,000 units. If I sell 1 million units without bargaining, I would immediately get a few 100 million to a few billion. Su Yu sighed, he sighed and said, if that's the case for one city, the 28 cities will immediately earn tens or hundreds of billions. They will come here once a year. Moreover, the people who bought this year will not be able to transfer it for 10 years, then, we can continue harvesting next year. Chen Hao was dumbfounded. After a long while, he said with a bitter face, I came to talk to you about something. I'm not asking you how you earn money. What are you thinking about? Su Yu chuckled and said, it's fine. Don't worry too much. This matter won't be so simple. If we really take up all the spots in the Southern Yuan, do you think the Southern Yuan side will agree? If nothing goes wrong, there will definitely be other policies to make up for it. Really? Chen Hao still trusted Su Yu more, but he still asked uncertainly, will that affect me? Probably not. Su Yu was also uncertain, he only guessed. If I were Lord Xiaohou, I might have some other policies. For example, the Southern Yuan would recruit a total of 20 people. Then the Southern Yuan would recruit 15 locals and 5 foreigners. This way, the money would be earned, the foreigners would have a chance, and the Southern Yuan people would not lose out. And these people could have been admitted into the Great Xia Manor. After going back and forth, the people in the academy might not change, but they would earn tens of billions more. As for this money, it is something that the parents themselves are willing to spend. If you have the ability, you can take the exam in the Great Xia Manor. This way, no one will blame you. Su Yu chuckled and said, in short, it is to force a group of middle-class families who originally did not need to spend money to solve the problem. They spent tens of billions, and Lord Xiaohou got his hands on it. Then he spent it again and again. That's hundreds of billions. Chen Hao did not understand. Wasn't it tens of billions? How did it become hundreds of billions? Su Yu did not explain to him and comforted him, don't worry. The people above are not stupid. Can they really cause a lot of complaints? The manor head is only in seclusion, not anything else. Aren't you afraid that the manor head will come out and cause trouble for them? He was certain that Lord Xiaohou would not really cause Great Xia Manor great trouble. If Lord Xiaohou was really that stupid, would the Xia clan trading company still be able to monopolize the cultivation resources of the entire Great Xia Manor? Of course, it was related to the Xia clan. Without some ability, the other great clans would not agree. Then tell me, why would Lord Xiaohou earn so much money by doing this? Now, many people in the Great Xia Manor want to beat him to death. His Xia trading company made so much money. Just a simple purchase would cost tens of thousands. Su Yu shook his head slightly. No one dislikes having too much money. Perhaps Lord Xia likes to count money. There's nothing you can do about it. At this moment, no one knew that the Great Xia Manor's treasury would be empty. Even if Wan Tianxing said this at the meeting, everyone still felt that it was fake and a bluff. What a joke. The Great Xia Mansion was one of the most powerful manors of the human race. There were as many experts as there were clouds. The economy was developed, and the people lived and worked in peace. They were invincible in the war on the front lines. How could they not have money? If they did not have money, how could Xiao Longwu spend it? Now, even if Xiao Longwu stood up and said that the Great Xia Mansion did not have money, many people would probably laugh and say, Mansion Master, you must be joking. How could that be possible? Su Yu did not expect it, and neither did Chen Hao. After being comforted by Su Yu, he felt much more at ease. He exhaled and said, that's good. As long as it doesn't affect us. My dad also said that we should see if we should sell the old house this time. Su Yu cursed in his heart. What a big dog. This guy had a suite at home in Su Yu's neighborhood. He had not sold it all this time. If he really sold it this time, it would bring in millions. Su Yu rubbed his chin and said, Howsy, do you think it's really worth it to sell the apartment now? $1 million. When Su Long bought this apartment in the past, because he was a soldier, the price was very cheap. It was only around $70,000 to $80,000. Now, the restricted trading period had long passed. Previously, the price of the apartment in Nanyuan was still okay, but it was only worth around $500,000. In the blink of an eye, it had doubled. It was too scary. With this news, Suyu wanted to sell his house now. He had made a huge profit. Chen Hao looked at him suspiciously and said softly, "Are you still thinking about this? Uncle Su will really beat you to death when he comes back. If you don't have any money, just ask my dad to lend you some." "What are you thinking about?" Suyu smiled and said, "I'm just saying. I can't sell it. Even if I sell it, I have to get my dad's approval. What a pity. This opportunity is really too rare."